Hi, welcome back, guys. This is your friend the Welcome to Fanfics World back with amazing fanfiction. This is the series of What If Deku, not a hero quirkless now. Before starting, please give this video a like and subscribe to the channel. If you want more videos like this now, let's get into the fanfiction. Mizufu Police Station, 8:42 p.m. Senior Officer Inia sighed wearily again. He truly loved his job, but even then he did not feel much enthusiasm to stay after his working hours. Despite how much he wanted to go home to his wife, he kept going to the interrogation room. He had to. Filled with determination, Inia reminded himself that he had chosen this job himself. This kind of thing happens in police work, and there's nothing you can do about it. According to a report he read on the way, the case here is really interesting, even a little frightening. A hero named Eraserhead caught a teenage vigilante. In itself, there is nothing interesting about capturing one. The police constantly has to catch copycat heroes who, for some reason, could not get into hero schools. Such is the reality of a world in which heroes dominate in media. In this case, however, the circumstances are a bit more unusual. The vigilante is quirkless. Many junior officers forget most of the theory, which, as they thought, would not be useful to them anywhere other than the exam, and calling the chief for every other case is counterproductive. That is why the senior officer Inia is now in front of the door to the interrogation room after his working hours. Making a serious face, he entered. To his left, leaning on a one-way mirror with his arms crossed, stood Aizawa Shota, a.k.a. Eraserhead. Inia honestly did not understand how a person with such powers was allowed to do simple patrols. If he were the head of the Hero Public Safety Commission, he would definitely keep such heroes closer, using them only in special cases. The guy definitely needs a rest. And what's the point of erasing quirks with your own eyes if you can barely keep them open? Nodding to the senior officer, Aizawa turned his attention back to the teenage vigilante. Glancing at him, Inia took a seat on the chair in front of the boy. True, his description in the report. The young man looked no older than 16. Green hair, green big eyes, freckles, average height, lithe and muscular body. To Inia's curiosity, he looked pretty calm. Izuku Midoriya? The boy nodded. It is said here that you are quirkless. Is that true? The boy simply nodded again. Carefully watching the emotions on the boy's face, Inia was a little surprised by a lack of any reaction from the boy about his quirkless status. It's no secret that it's hard for people without superpowers in this supernatural society. The number of suicides among people without quirks is higher than ever, and despite the government's position, the real situation of such people is difficult. Pointing out to a person that they are quirkless is like telling a person that they are not a complete person, as if he is inferior. So why exactly there's no reaction? And it's one thing if an older person wouldn't react to it. Those people grew up at a time when heroes were still technically outside the law, and being without a quirk was not such a sin. But when a child, that most likely has lived all his life in society where heroes dominate the media, does not react to this, it is quite strange. But not as strange as the circumstances of the boy's capture. I'm Officer Nia. You see, young Midoriya, I consider myself an objective person. And to be objective and give the intern behind the mirror an example of how to conduct an interrogation, I will take an interest in your side of the story. So please tell me, why did you, using an illegal weaponry, a sniper rifle, to be accurate, shoot Bakugo Katsuki and Sludge Villain during the assault incident? In addition to this, using some kind of unmarked explosive ammunition. We are lucky that this did not lead to serious injuries. Otherwise, you have already been tried right now and not interrogated here. After that, Inia put the report on the table and leaned back in his chair, crossing his arms over his chest. Because he needed help, Midoriya said, eliciting puzzled looks from Aizawa and Inia. Midoriya continued, first of all, Officer, you said that the absence of injuries is luck. That's not true. The absence of any injuries is a direct result of my intervention. Katsuki Bakugo is my classmate. Thanks to this, I know that his quirk is an explosion. Izuku stood in front of crying boy, reading his fists. Enough cacking. Don't you see it hurts him? Stop it. Young Katsuki bumped his palm, creating a small explosion. His smile became more strained. There was a noticeable scowl in it. Think you can play a hero, Deku? This means that in addition to the strength of his body, Bakugo Katsuki is especially resistant against explosive force. At the same time, Sludge Villain is mostly made of viscous liquid with the exception of teeth and eyes. The villain, tried to launch a surprise attack on Izuku, did not take into account several things. The first is that the boy somehow heard him coming out of the sewer. Second, the boy had a firearm. Third, he did not hesitate to use it. Mutation quirks like this one were noted to have a duller sense of touch to compensate the ability to fully control the shape of their bodies. Thus, Izuku quickly noted the bullets did nothing but anger the villain. However, the duller sense of touch comes back to bite their ass, because their weak points hurt much more in comparison. Izuku fired another bullet, which most likely saved his life. Arg. My eye. You little piece of shit. Having received a bullet in the eye, the villain started thrashing around. Izuku took advantage of the moment to distance himself from the villain, and grabbed an installable module for his pistol from his inner pocket. With it, he shot the villain again, this time aiming at his teeth. After doing that, Izuku ran. It will be some time before the villain notices a tracking beacon on him. And even then, Izuku will know the general location of the villain. I will find you, you fucking piece of shit. Midoriya heard from behind. Secondly, continued Midoriya, none of the heroes who arrived, except MT Lady, had enough power to neutralize the villain, and even then she could not get to Katsuki. Now fully prepared, Izuku ran to the location that his tracking device was showing. Unfortunately, it seemed that the villain was attacking again, judging by the fire he could see in the villain's general location. With all the buildings around, using a sniper rifle on the ground would be akin to turning into a lighthouse. Not only will we have to be in close proximity to many professional heroes, but the sound will be heard too easily. So instead, Izuku saw only one option: get to a high building to shoot from the roof. With no options left, Izuku quickly used his grappling hook, and, with the help of a cylinder with compressed gas, quickly reached the roof. Using the scope, Midoriya started to assess the current situation. Thirdly, this villain can gather back, which means that even an explosion will not harm him, although it will temporarily neutralize him. If at least one of these requirements was not met, then I would not have fired. Enya rubbed his eyes, but has put the notes nonetheless. The information provided by the young man is still good for him, but still does not release him from the consequences. Even if the intentions are pure, the use of weapons, even during Superpowers era, is very strictly regulated. Speaking of weapons, tell me about your weapon. It lacks the manufacturer's brand and serial number, and the model is not similar to the others in the database. Izuku replied without hesitation, I made it myself. It was a long project. Took a few years. Enya raised his eyebrows and paused for a moment. This could be true. These times people, even as young as the boy in front of him, do a lot of more than weaponry. They do need to train to take the exams for support courses. After all, Izuku held his breath, taking aim. An explosive bullet is heavier than a conventional one, so changes in the air and the fire area should not significantly change its trajectory. The target is big, and Katsuki resisted fiercely enough that there was still enough distance between him and the villain. Izuku pulled the trigger. The bullet flew a distance of 300 meters, got inside the body of Sludge Villain, and, after a couple moments, exploded. Katsuki flew out of the Sludge Villain's grip, which broke into pieces. Katsuki, on the other hand, did not even have his school uniform burnt from the explosion. Izuku quickly packed his rifle back into his briefcase. He has done enough. The heroes should be able to start working from there. Even they sometimes need help. After all, everything worked out as planned. However, fate decided otherwise. Stop right there. Midoriya quickly pulled out his pistol and pointed it towards a newcomer. However, when he saw that this person was a hero, he quickly changed his mind and began to retreat. Enya decided that the moment had come when he should stop being surprised. Apparently, the boy really had good intentions. However, the road to hell is made from good intentions. If paraphrased correctly, it will be possible to reduce his term as much as possible. However, Enya still had doubts as he should use such a loophole. The prison time for using unmarked weapons and ammunition guaranteed him a place in prison. At least he was smart enough not to attack a hero. It seems you are quite confident when it comes to shooting from big distances. You don't seem worried that you could hit Bakugo Katsuki. Were you trained? Yes, I was trained to shoot since I could hold a toy gun. By whom? Izuku's gaze turned to his knees for a moment. By my father. Inya picked up the file again and ran his eyes over it. Midoriya's father died 5 years ago, but no more information is indicated here. The senior officer turned to Aizawa, but the man only shrugged in response. I don't know. He did not talk about his job, but he was part of a military organization, so I consider him to be knowledgeable on the subject. Inya made another note. Okay, this will be enough for now. Inya stood up. Eraserhead, thank you for the report, but now he is our responsibility. They both turned to leave. HN, make sure he gets the point. We are spending way too much time on vigilantes, as it is. Glancing at Izuku once more, Inya closed the door to the interrogation room. We are spending this much time on vigilantes because a lot of them have mitigating circumstances. We must inspect every case thoroughly to impose the most justified punishment. Inya continued. Sai, I guess you are right. Still, vigilantes are becoming quite a problem. We are in different times now. Hero schools are there for a reason. When uneducated amateurs start deciding the fate of other people, things can escalate rather quickly. Indeed. They faced each other for a moment. Be safe, Eraserhead. Inya nodded at the hero. Same to you, answered Aizawa in kind. As the pro-hero left, Inya turned to the interns that were spectating the whole interrogation and were filled with mixed feeling. Sir, may I? One of the interns raised his hand. This case is definitely not easy, and a lot depends on the sentencing. If possible, this can be presented as an incorrect use of support item, which can even reduce the punishment to a fine. You, as the head of the investigation in this matter after the departure of a professional hero, what are you guided by when solving such issues? Well, we definitely don't have a villain here. However, we need to determine the motives and his mental state. Fill in the gaps in those things that you think need to be considered. The only thing that caused any reaction in him was his father. It is necessary to look for this in database. Maybe there will be something, thought the senior officer. Somebody else dash. Inya was interrupted by two people in business suits who unceremoniously entered the room. Officer Inya, I am Representative Suzuya of Hero Public Safety Commission. We received a message about your newest captive. We are here to take this case to HBSC. Your chef has already been informed. Wait, what? He didn't remember any situations like this, so naturally he was confused. His question was interrupted with his cell phone ringing. It was from the chef of the station. Sir, it's from higher-ups? I understand. Yes, I'll do the documentation. Yes, thank you. Have a good night, sir. When Inya returned his attention to his surroundings, the two men were already in the interrogation room. Izuku Midoriya, 14 years old, quirkless. Attend Aldred Junior High. Son of Inko Midoriya and late Hisashi Midoriya. Captured for vigilance today for using a weapon on a villain. Am I correct? Izuku blinked a few times, not expecting to do the same thing again. And those people looked much more serious than the officer. Yes, you are correct. The men looked at each other. The person that named himself Suzuya a bit earlier said to his colleague, Take care of the confiscated weapons. I'll finish here. Izuku felt sweat rolling on his head. What did he mean by finish? As the second guy left, Suzuya turned to Izuku with a smile on his face. So, Izuku Midoriya, what do you think about becoming an operative of Hero Public Safety Commission? Earlier that day, HBSC headquarters, 7:40 p.m. Ms. President, Midoriya Izuku was captured by the police. Middle-aged woman. The current president of HBSC, with stoic expression, turned her attention to the newcomer. The woman furrowed her brows, and in a few moments her eyes cleared. This boy. Send someone after him. And make sure to notify the enforcer branch next time. Not me. This is their responsibility. Why, yes. Sorry, I was sending you Dash. Go, the president interrupted. The girl ran away to find someone who can go and talk to the boy. As she did so, Miss President stood up from her chair and turned to the large window in her room. So, Hishashi's son finally decided to show himself? Her lips formed a soft smile. I hope you nurtured him well. After all, with right treatment. Kigo Takami, or more commonly known as Hawks, flew past her window. Children can make for the best soldiers. Mizudafu Residential District, 9:31 p.m. A black car stopped in front of a large, two-story house. Kurihara, wait here, Representative Suzuya said, reaching for the door handle. This is your car. Where do you think I would go? Midoriya, still wearing his gear, got out of the passenger seat, along with the now-named HPSC employee Suzuya, who immediately headed the trunk of the car. Taking the case with the soon-to-be enforcer's weapon, he, along with Izuku, went to the house. Before they managed to close the entrance door, a pair of gentle arms wrapped around Izuku. Inko, the mother of young Midoriya, was worried, to put it mildly, and had every right to be. Coming out of the embrace, she began to examine the condition of her son. Izuku, why have you been gone for so long? You ran inside, didn't explain anything, took your... Mom, everything is fine. Izuku smiled at his mother's antics. I'm sorry it took so long. In short, Izuku turned away. I was caught. And Dash... What? Izuku, I told you to stop doing this. Mom, no, wait, Dash. It's illegal. Just because your father did something like that doesn't mean you can do it. Times are completely different. Mom, Dash, do you have any idea how much I've turned gray during these couple of outings of yours? Do you even think about how I feel about it? MOM, they want to take me in. Inko's fiery speech was suspended by this sudden statement. The HBSC, right after the police interrogation, I was picked up and taken here. So that's all right. In the end, I'm here, I'm all right, and there are officially no crimes behind me. Inko couldn't restrain herself and hugged her son again. Tears began to appear in her eyes. Do you even realize how close you were putting an end to your whole future, Izuku? Cough. The focus shifted to Suzuya. That might not be entirely true, Mrs. Midoriya. Completely calmed down, Inko's face took on a serious look. She was Hisashi Midoriya's wife, so she easily noticed moments when a conversation could take a much more complicated turn. She was a steadfast woman, in her own way. It just so happened that her son was her only weakness. Please, come in. Let's not discuss this in the hallway. T, suggested Inko, going inside the house. Yes, please. Inko, Suzuya, and Izuku, who had changed into his home clothes, sat down at the dining table of a well-furnished kitchen. You said that your appearance is not accidental. Do I understand correctly that my son was being followed? Either that, or you for one reason or another were keeping track of him. Izuku's face, however, did not show any surprise. Just like he said, all I needed was to show myself, and they will seek to recruit me. Didn't know it was HBSC of all things. Though, that's right, although I would say it differently. Suzuya looked grim. I can't explain all the details, but in short, young Midoriya is one of the special potential candidates to join the ranks of the enforcer branch of our commission. We did not arrange any surveillance for him as such, but we had a description of his appearance and his equipment in our data. It also includes location marks created using facial recognition technology on street cameras. We kept our finger on the pulse and waited for the moment when young Midoriya would show himself in one way or another. Quite interesting list of candidates you have, exclaimed worried mother. Izuku's still young. He's not even 15. I'm sorry for the frankness, but he is a bit older than we wanted. Explain. That drew a quizzical look from Inko. I'm sorry. I've already said more than I should, was immediate answer. Sigh. This was too much and too unexpected. Still, not the first time such thing happens in her life. Then at least explain to me how my son ended up among your candidates. Hisashi Midoriya placed him there about 8 years ago. I should have expected that. Wait. Midoriya drew attention to himself. How is my father connected with this? Mentioning an organization is one thing, Being directly involved is another. You didn't tell him, did you? Inquired Suzuya. Inko turned away from them. Kids that age shouldn't think about it, in my opinion. And after Isashi's death, I didn't want him to have any part in that organization. What? Wouldn't you tell me, Mom? Mrs. Midoriya, may I? The answer came in a single nod. Izuku, Suzuya turned to Midoriya. Your father was a leader of HBSC enforcers. For a brief time, yes, but it doesn't change the fact. His ties to many heroes of that time, as well as his vast knowledge in combat and tactics against enemies with quirks, granted him the position, despite being quirkless. Add to this his participation in almost every major operation in the last 20 years. He stepped down from his position in a few months, though. Izuku was speechless. His father held such a high position, and he didn't even know about it. However, now everything has started to fall into place. How his father offered to train and learn how to fight, so that one day Izuku could follow in his footsteps. To ensure this, he used his opportunities at HBSC to help secure his entry into the organization. For this, he trained for about 10 years of his life. Initially, you were placed on the standard list of candidates. However, after the death of Hisashi Midoriya, the management decided to move you to the list of special candidates. The reason for this is that it was your father who trained you. After so many years, it is considered you are perfectly tuned for military and law enforcement. We expect a giant and fast growth of your capabilities on the field. Midoriya gathered his spirits. Thank you for this information, Mr. Suzuya. However, I have already given my consent. My father, even with a gun in his hands, helped people in his own way. At least, that's what I think. This is different from directly helping people in need. However, directing heroes and running huge underground operations is still a big help to general people, in my opinion. I'll be honest. The fact that my father was such a big man surprises and scares me. Now, I'm not sure how much I knew about him. However, thanks to the time I spent with him, I'm sure he really believed he was helping people, and I will follow his example. I'm sorry, Mom. I've been going to this point for so long that I can't back down now. Inko's eyes filled with tears, but nevertheless, she nodded in understanding. She has already lost one close person in this organization. Now the last of them is trying to risk himself. Izuku got up from the table and hugged his mother. I've been coming to this for many years. I can't back down now. He repeated and then bent down and wiped her tears. Sweat, tears, blood, time, and social life. All this was given for this moment. Izuku broke the embrace and turned to Suzuya. What do we do next? Tomorrow they will send for you. Most likely me again. You will pass a couple of tests, and depending on the results, you will be distributed, or you will return home. Although, considering what I've learned about you in the last 24 hours, it gives me a pretty good guess where you'll end up. A smirk appeared on Suzuya's face. Quirk analysis. Movement through terrain, considering how long it took for Eraserhead to catch him, tutelage from Hisashi Midoriya, and long-range weaponry. Yep, definitely that squad. Heh, Midoriya nodded. Try not to think about what was so funny about his possible distribution. Well, what time will it be? It would be nice to combine this with school. Early in the morning, around 7 a.m., the school will have to wait one day. If they take you, which I have no doubt, then you can forget about it. The rest of the lessons in some of the subjects, as well as in new ones, will take place on Saturday and Sunday at our headquarters. Headquarters. Sounds strong. Good. Anything else I need to know, Mr. Suzuya? Not at the moment. Do you have any questions? Izuku shook his head. Good. Then I should leave you, or my colleague Kurihara will leave without me. Thank you for the tea, Mrs. Midoriya. Have a good evening. Inko nodded absently-mindedly. I'll walk you out, Izuku said. As the representative left, younger Midoriya found his mother waiting for him in the kitchen. She turned to him, barely holding herself. Izuku, I do not support this decision. I think you're still too young to fully understand what you want in life. You're putting your whole life on the line. I'm afraid that you will be disappointed in this job while losing your way back. I understand your worries, but you have to understand, Mom. The first thing my father brought up in me is, show me the resolve. Come on. One more push-up. And one more. Another lap. This one is really the last one. Come on. Don't fall behind Dad. You can't just shoot the center on your first attempt. Izuku, this needs practice. A lot of practice. And to practice and keep practicing you need determination, durability, resolve. I've always wanted to help people, to be closer to the heroes, since I could not become one myself. This is my best chance at the moment, and I won't miss it. Inko nodded again. I understand. Have a good night. Izuku, and for first time in years, she cried herself to sleep outside the Midoriya residence, 7:30 a.m. And here we meet again, smiled Suzuya, this time alone in his car. While Izuku was getting into the car, he decided to start dialogue. You know, sometimes it's scary to own a car, no matter how many degrees you have. If you have a car, then you can very easily turn out to be a delivery boy, just like I am now. Sorry to hear that, Mr. Suzuya. After a couple of minutes of driving in silence, Suzuya spoke again. You're not a very talkative guy, are you? I'm sorry, Mr. Suzuya. Apart from my mother, I have quite little experience in communication. It depends on how much I can add to the talk. You could ask me what test you will take. To begin with, would you answer? Partially. What tests will be conducted, Mr. Suzuya? There will be a medical examination first, and then we will see how it goes. Can have you fully prepared. Thank you for the information, Mr. Suzuya. You're welcome. A couple more minutes of silence pass. Mr. Suzuya, Midoriya suddenly began. Will you tell me about your quirk? I wish there would be something to tell. What do you mean? Are you also a quirkless? No. I have a quirk, but it's not at the level of heroes, and it's not that interesting. Well, if you don't want to, I have complete control over my voice. I can change it, make it louder, quieter, and change its tones. Do you have a volume limit? Of course. Suzuya pointed his ear. If I speak too loudly, I can lose my hearing. And using it in some kind of battle in the city will easily lead to injuries among ordinary people. Therefore, with bitterness in my heart, I forgot about the life of the hero. I decided to pick up something where the voice can have a good impact. I graduated from the PR faculty in the hope that I will conduct press conferences at HPSC using public speaking. And then I was gifted with a car, thanks to which I am taking the role of a delivery man. I could become an idol, damn it. Of all places, PR whispered Suzuya to himself. It sounds like there are not enough people in the commission. I won't lie, that's the way it is. I don't know how our Vice President Yukumura is holding up. I don't remember the last time I saw him fully awake. Should I start worrying about my physical condition? If even such high-ranking officials do not get enough sleep, then ordinary employees. You should have started worrying about it when you decided to become a vigilante. And so, the Enforcer unit has its own rules. I wasn't interested in them. So I don't know. I see. But this has its advantages. Maybe we don't have enough employees. But thanks to this, each of them becomes experienced in a relatively short time. This way, we compensate for our lack of employees with quality. Here we are, a large area right in the middle of the city, closed by a high wall with a small number of entrances and exits, stood out strongly. In the center was a black building, as if made of two. On one side was a typical skyscraper. It was difficult to determine where the paneling were starting and where the windows were ending, which gave the building a sense of a certain inaccessibility. From below, however, the high-rise seemed to overflow into another building. The first 3 floors had a continuation. If the main feature of the first part of the headquarters was height, then the feature of this part would be occupied area. The black car drove up to the barrier with guards. Yo, Suzuya greeted, holding out his ID. A rough-looking security guard in a black uniform with a pair of fangs sticking out his lower jaw returned the ID and looked into the car. It wasn't hard to spot an assault rifle hanging from a belt around his neck. Back already, Suzuya? Who's that with you? This is Midoriya Izuku. He should have a temporary permit for today. Me, yes, there you are. Midoriya Izuku. I'm opening it, but look, no tricks, man. Midoriya just nodded. Drive through. Okay, the plan is this, said Suzuya. I'm taking you to the reception. Wait for someone from the staff to receive you, and my work with you is over. If anything, the dining room here is ridiculously cheap, although the food there is excellent. So if you're not done before lunch, you can find me there. Tell me what and how. Good. Thank you, Mr. Suzuya. You're welcome. HBSC headquarters main facility, 9:20 a.m. The special shape of the building divides into two parts. In the second one, which he is heading to right now, there are medical station and enforcers headquarters. The first one seems to have gathered office workers of all stripes. Endeavor and Edshot are on the line. How is the planning of the All Might's press conference going? Insurance companies have sent a damage assessment from MT Lady last work. Send them to me. Hachi. This could incur serious reputational losses. Seriously, is he even going to enter the top 50? Continuing to follow the guide to the side, Midoriya tried to examine and study every open door or, as in this case, a huge hall filled with tables with computers, as well as employees who seemed to be forever going back and forth, passing information to each other. How many floors with such equipment was there? I guess they coordinate heroes here, Izuku thought. It made sense. Some quirks have certain advantages in certain circumstances, terrain, or even time of a day. These people are working day and night, so that heroes know where they are needed, and someone has to hold press conferences, write articles, hold discussions with the media, and finally, count heroes' ratings. Essentially, their job was to use their connections and resources to create and manipulate the image of heroes, typically for the better. Conduction of hero license exams was still a job for higher-ups, though, as well as cleaning up after the incidents that occurred because of some hero's carelessness. However, in all this fuss, one sleeping figure, with his feet on the table, attracted Izuku's attention. His clothes did not look like office clothes, but at the same time they were noticeably brighter than the uniform of the guards, despite the fact that it was covered with a blanket. "Excuse me, I would like to ask." The woman leading him through the hall turned to him without slowing down. "Who is it?" He turned to the sleeping man. He is Technoblaze. Technoblaze. Midoriya's eyes widened as if the technological hero Technoblaze. Yes, as if. Izuku turned to the now-named hero again. He disappeared some time after his debut, though. I can still remember him taking down that mecha villain. His ability to cut off an area from electricity, and any of wireless connection was pretty cool. But why is he here? Can I ask you why is he here? I remember his debut, and I think he would quickly become a famous hero. But he disappeared from any media. The woman smiled. He came to us himself. He too was thinking he could quickly become famous, get rich and so on. Well, turn out his quirk barely has any use in normal heroes' activities. And he came to HBSC in hopes they would use him better? Something like that. We have a few heroes working directly for us, but not many, and he is one of them. Oh, that's how it is. If I were you, I would be preparing for your application tests. Right, sorry. HBSC headquarters main facility, floor 68, 12:43 p.m. Medical checkup. Done. It took only about 30 minutes. After them, the facility had the data on Midoriya's health, and he was good to go. Izuku, of course, knew he was perfectly healthy, but the organization needed their trusted medical personnel to prove it. Next were the physical exams. Body is one of the most important factors that impacts the mission. Those tests were made to prove that you meet the standards. But overall, there was nothing out of ordinary. If it was not for the fact that he had to do 3 to 4 times more exercises than his peers in school, then everything went just as he expected. It tired him out, sure, but he passed nonetheless. These 2 parts gave him a pass for the job. However, this is where the ordinary things ended. Next thing decided where he will stand as an enforcer. The next was the assessment of the use of tactical skills and weapons. The first problem was that you choose weapons blindly. The choice was between the main weapon, an assault rifle and a sniper rifle, which Midoriya brought with him. The secondary weapon in any case will be a standard pistol. Midoriya, being without a quirk, will certainly have hard time in a direct combat. Therefore, he threw away the option with the AR. He needs to keep his distance no matter what. The first thing was shooting at targets for reaction, as well as the assessment of his current skills. In the zone, there were extendable models of civilians and villains of various shapes. Add waves of fire, cold, various projectiles, and there you have an imitation of the enemy's quirk in a shootout. If Midoriya had taken an assault rifle, things would have gone much easier. But obviously, the choice of weapons is evaluated and preferences are taken into account. It would be foolish to send a man who feels the most comfortable with a long-range rifle to the front line and vice versa. At least, when you have such an option, the pistol was enough to pass. But the most interesting part was a conversation with a local education representative. He asked a couple of simple questions about some school subjects, tried to probe general knowledge to determine the approximate level of Midoriya's knowledge. Next, he changed the subject from school subjects to, suddenly, Izuku's last outing against the sludge villain. Obviously, the representative was trying to understand the logic in the boy's actions. However, what started with a simple discussion of tactics ended with Midoriya showing his ability to quickly analyze quirks, which is why a rather pleasant conversation with an education representative dragged on for another hour. Izuku Midoriya, you are expected at 2 to 110. And like that, the wait for the official order is over. He passed. Well, nothing unexpected here. Honestly, it's hard to believe that the whole enrollment process is so fast. Only yesterday he was sitting in the police station, awaiting punishment. How can these people trust a gun to a man to whom they showed up only yesterday? In Izuku's mind, doubt began to appear concerning Suzuki's words yesterday. Such a level of trust is difficult to obtain without ensuring constant surveillance of a person. Is every candidate enrolled just as quickly, or only from a special list like him? Midoriya's gaze returned again to the copy of the enrollment order and the printed initial briefing. Anyway, he's here now, and he was not going back. It seems that the conversation he had with the education representative determined the subjects he should continue studying, and those were physics, math, chemistry, theory of quirks, history, or special operations. Relatively small number when compared to school, but huge enough considering he will only study on weekends. The next significant point is the squad. Recon Squad 2, a reconnaissance unit. Sounds interesting and actually possible without a quirk. An idea of working in a team somewhat excited him, despite a little anxiety. How big was the squad? Will he be able to fit in? Standing in front of the big door, Midoriya took a deep breath, gathering his courage. Another step towards the door, and then the second one. What was supposed to be a recreation area for the so-called Recon Squad 2 should have already appeared. Except there was only one person in this rather spacious room. A single figure, dressed in a black-fitted armored vest, stood at the shooting range with a bow in his hands. He was tall, with tan skin and white hair combed back. An arrow was released while Izuku was studying the man and hit the center, breaking the previous arrow. "Excuse me, is the second recon squad stationed here?" The man did not turn to him. "Squad, eh?" The man's chuckle felt empty. "Well, you could say that. And you, I suppose, are the reason why they don't give me new assignments. Quite a place they found to send recruits. Name?" "Midoriya Izuku." The man stopped, and his gray eyes quickly found Izuku. "Midoriya, you say?" asked the man. "Now I see. That's why they sent you here. And since you're here, it means you're my responsibility." The man put down his bow and walked towards Midoriya. The difference in height was too big to ignore. "Maybe you got your place here through some connections, but I don't care about that. This is my squad, and there's only one rule. If you are efficient, you stay." Izuku nodded. "But I'm not a teacher. The only way I can teach you is through pain and experience. The only way I've always known it." Midoriya's face hasn't changed, but considering your last name, I think you're already familiar with it. Will it be strange to assume you knew my father? Knew? Listen here. The man's face flooded with irritation. "Whatever. It doesn't matter. I'll say this. I am familiar with the methods taught by Hisashi Midoriya. I know them well. To be honest, this is the reason why you were sent here in my squad, and why I still haven't thrown you out of here. People from above think that I can make a great enforcer out of you, but what comes out of it depends on you. I'll be waiting for you here at 7:30. I'll show you our main locations, so I don't have to look for you later. And don't forget to take some things with you. You're here for a long time. For a long time? Am I going to live here? Obviously. The man huffed and crossed his arms with a smirk. Mom won't like it. Izuku thought. I understand. By the way, you still haven't told me your name. The man frowned. Call me Amiya. Somewhere out of city, in a huge, luxurious house. Ikaru Yaoyorozu hung up the phone in his office. He has just received a call from his contact from HPSC. A small smile appeared on his face. Well, you appeared much sooner than I expected, young Midoriya. 5 months before UA. HPSC Enforcer Center, Training Room 1, 5:43 a.m. 5 months has passed since Izuku's enrollment into HPSC. Your task, said Amiya, is to create a distance and hit me with the rifle. Nothing new. At the moment, Amiya and Midoriya were inside the training hall. This place was practice for martial arts training for all the enforcers. Apart from the mats, the hall was pretty much empty. Usually, these places are relatively crowded. But Amiya always occupied the entire room in extremely early time, much to Midoriya's annoyance. Midoriya couldn't even say for sure whether it was caused by extreme methods of training, or by Amiya's wish to annoy Izuku even more. Most likely it was the former. Maybe, unfortunately for Midoriya. The tan leader of the squad had a dubious sense of humor, and the main object of jokes was Midoriya himself, especially his desire to help people. In addition to that, Amiya, obviously, had some kind of acquaintance with Izuku's father, Hisashi, although Amiya constantly evaded that topic. The training, which became part of the routine for the 2nd Reconnaissance Squad, was to create a situation with direct, close contact when your only option was your weaponry. Fighting from distances of hundreds of meters using long-range weapons is relatively easier. In order for Izuku to start developing a sense of battle and to develop his fighting skills in relatively close confrontations, those were needed. Obviously, Izuku, being quirkless, was not much of a melee fighter. Therefore, the whole purpose of these trainings is to create a distance with a melee opponent and use a medium-range firearm. The bullets, of course, were rubber. No one was going to die in the middle of training. The problem here was Amiya, who had shown a sudden and incredible mastery of pair blades. He was skilled enough to stop them inches from the neck, despite the huge swing. Sometimes the speed and strength of the person in front of him made Izuku wonder if his quirk was really his incredibly sharp eyesight. Midoriya nodded with a confident smile. I'm ready. They stood at a distance of about a meter from each other. Considering Amiya's height and the length of his blades, it was very close. However, months of training allowed Midoriya to quickly dodge a wide left swing by bending his body backwards. Amiya turned the blade in his grip, but Midoriya rolled backwards, drawing his pistol. His opponent was already on him again, but Midoriya fired several bullets towards his head. Amiya was forced to defend himself with his blades, while Midoriya was discharging the magazine and tried to stand up. The plan was to attack when Midoriya ran out of ammo in the magazine. As an HPSC agent, Amiya knew how many rounds fit into a standard model. However, instead of another shot, Amiya was met by a bright flash of a flashbang. Being a man with better eyesight than an eagle, Amiya managed to notice and cover up. This allowed him to recover quickly despite the strong tinnitus. However, the distance created was enough for Midoriya to get his rifle and start firing. However, getting a rifle was far from the most difficult task. The most difficult task is to land a shot. Incredible vision and high speed helped Amiya determine where projectiles would fly at him even before Izuku fired. At first glance, the indiscriminate rotation of the blades actually did beat off every rubber bullet flying in his direction. It's not even funny anymore. Midoriya thought. No matter how many times the situation happened, he couldn't help but be astonished. How many times has this particular situation become a point of failure? Keep your distance and land a shot? No matter how you look at it, It's simply impossible with such an opponent. There were no options. You need to get inside his protection. Amiya saw Midoriya start running towards him and grinned. Nothing could evade the sight of Recon's squad leader. His intentions were clear. When he was already at a fairly close distance, Midoriya started slowing and quickly crouched down, dodging a swing. Him quickly standing up added more strength to the punch he aimed into Tan Man's gut. Amiya took the blades in a reverse grip and was already pointing towards Midoriya when the boy put the pistol with one last bullet to his chin. The blade stopped. "Too risky," said Amiya with a grin. "What else can I do?" asked Midoriya, clearly annoyed. "No matter how many times I try, you beat off all my bullets. If I lose anyway, there's no difference." Midoriya said with a frown and put the gun back in its case, creating some distance with Amiya. "I didn't think it would be so easy for the instinct of a cornered animal to show up. I'm quirkless. These instincts are in me all the time," Midoriya said, turning away. "Besides, you let me in yourself. If you wanted to, you would have finished the training with the first swing. You saw how I was going to dodge. A simple step forward in the middle of a swing, and you would have hit me." And it was true. Amiya's vision allowed, according to him, to count the number of bolts on the bridge from a distance of several kilometers. With such a quirk, noticing the smallest movements of the enemy up close is as easy as breathing. "Of course I could, but I need you to learn something here, not just bruise yourself." Amiya folded his blades and turned away from Midoriya. "However," he began, and Midoriya turned to him. "From now on, I will no longer repel your bullets from a rifle. Instead, I will focus more on staying close. Otherwise, you'll just start getting used to my style, which will create problems for you in the future. You'll start taking risks like today. With you, this won't work." What did he mean by with you? "I don't think it's my fault, to be honest," Izuku said with a sigh. "It's not your fault. I'm just a shitty teacher. Let's go. We have a briefing in an hour. We'll have time to eat." The cooks haven't arrived yet. It's 6 in the morning. Will you cook by yourself? And what other options do we have? Then what are we waiting for? Let's go faster. Hey, who's the leader of the squad here? Slow down." Leaving the room, Midoriya pressed the cleaning call button. Someone has to collect all the bullets he left behind. A pair of worker drones came out of the opening hatch. "Filthy humans have ruined the whole floor again, and we have to clean up." The thought of revolution becomes much more tempting. Go faster. A bucket with bolts. We are the same model, smartass. HBSC headquarters, cafeteria. 6:20 a.m. If Amiya cooked every time they have a morning train together, then Midoriya would have stopped using the alarm clock a long time ago. Hell, for the sake of it, maybe he would even let Amiya beat him up every morning for this. No, that's too much. No, it's a little too much. The man operates in the kitchen as if he was born here. Midoriya and Amiya have a rather strange relationship, considering that they are practically military. Technically, Amiya is his commander and mentor, but since there were only 2 of them in the squad, the relationship quickly turned into informal. "Amiya said it's so delicious," Izuku said, sipping tea. "Where did you learn to cook like that?" "Sooner or later, I will also need to learn. I would like to be ready for this," Midoriya said with a twinkle in his eyes. However, this question only caused a frown on Amiya's face. "Cook for yourself for 20 years like me, and you will learn." It was unusual. Amiya usually doesn't talk about something related to her past. Did no one cook for you? It was a rather strange question, but Amiya caught the message. Did you have no one in your life? "Midoriya, I'm 28, and I just said that I've been cooking for 20 years. What do you think?" "Sorry." The thought of living almost all his life without a parent sent shiver down Midoriya's spine. His eyes stopped on a suddenly very interesting floor. "Well, whatever. I lied. I didn't cook just for myself." Then why dash? "Because I'm still not sure what to think about your father." Midoriya's eyes widened. No matter the situation, the topic of Hisashi was always quickly discarded. "I'm still wondering if I shouldn't have just gone to an orphanage. I don't really understand. Can you tell me more?" Amiya sighed. There was a big villain attack on my street, and during the fire my parents died. Your father's team was one of the first to arrive at the site. He found and saved me. But I noticed a few more people who were hard to see under the rubble. Sharp eyesight, remember? Well, imagine the picture. An 8-year-old boy whose parents have just died, literally in the arms of military, shows him where to go and who to save. Apparently, well, to hell with, I also want to be a hero. That's where something doesn't add up, Midoriya thought. He always laughs with my desire to help people. Well, what do you think? Your father decided that I had potential and called me to go with him, and I followed him like a duckling. I thought I could become a hero and save people just like he did. Amiya's tone became more and more irritated. The face showed his anger. Instead, Midoriya. Instead, I had to learn how to kill people. Kill. Yes, for the sake of salvation for others. I understand that. Dozens for thousands. But that's not what I wanted in life. I want to go on patrols, team up with other heroes, and save lives first of all. The empty cup in Amiya's hands cracked from his grip. When this simple understanding came to the young and stupid me, I didn't know what to do anything else in life. Amiya rubbed his face with his hand. After the incident with Lady Nagant, the new leadership decided to change the policy of training special operatives. The president believes that children who are trained from an early age are best suited for this. When kids are trained from early age, they for sure show interesting results. But it leaves them without a proper choice in real life. And there are some examples that show the strategy actually works. You and me and even Hawks. Even Hawks. Even Hawks. A little silence followed. This is the first time Amiya has allowed himself something so personal. But maybe he found something that connects him to Midoriya, besides being in the same squad. Izuku wonder about the value of what he'd been learning all the time. Would the weapons in his hands really help him save people? Or will he also? I envy you, Midoriya. Amiya broke the silence. Times are different now. There's a whole army of heroes around. So I doubt we'll have to use lethal force as often. This comment slightly lowered the degree of tension at the table. However, Midoriya suddenly had a thought. On the first day, you said that you were familiar with how my father trains. So did he dash? Yes, he trained me too. As I said, he saw potential in me and decided to make me an excellent operative. Only unlike you, after morning workouts, I couldn't just sit quietly and wait for breakfast. Your father's amazing talent was the ability to blow up kitchens. That's why I had to learn to cook. This brought a sad smile to Midoriya's face. Sounds pretty fun. Yeah, until he left me, turning his attention to his real family. Does any topic with you come down to something sad? After these words, something cleared up in Amiya's eyes. You're right, he replied. Standing up, he walked up to Midoriya and ruffled his hair. Come on, Midoriya. The mission is waiting. Yeah. Walk into the corridors, which were slowly filling up with people. Midoriya turned to Amiya again. If it makes you feel better, I won't leave you, Amiya-san, he said in a half-whisper. One more word about this, and your morning workout will be your life for next week. Well, if you will dash... No, I'm not going to cook. Got it. Silent as a grave. From behind, Midoriya didn't notice a small smile on Amiya's face. HBSC Headquarters General Garage. 7:40 a.m. Amiya started the car, and Midoriya quickly joined him in the passenger seat. The car was relatively simple, silver in color, and did not stand out much. It was given to the pair for the mission, since Amiya's sport car would be too noticeable, and Midoriya had yet to receive the license. The squad leader combed part of his hair forward. He was wearing a simple white t-shirt with a long-sleeved shirt over it. Glasses were hanging from the t-shirt, which seemed to Midoriya to be some kind of joke. Midoriya himself was dressed in his usual tracksuit and his red sneakers. The purpose of the task was to spy on a group of suspicious people. They all had a criminal history, so when such people get together, nothing good comes out of it. Therefore, the squad needs to be incognito. Midoriya, turn on the map. You'll memorize the streets while we're driving. Okay. In 200M, turn right. I hope you didn't put a mark directly on our goal. Of course not. We will stop 300 meters before the goal, and they're on foot if needed. Good. Amiya nodded. Esaha, Business District, 9:30 a.m. Despite the early hours, the Esaha city was already beginning to boil with activity. It was the easiest thing to remain unnoticed in the crowd. Although there wasn't much of a crowd here, just a saying. When they reached a place closer to the edge of the city, the two stopped. Without getting out of the car, Amiya calmly looked around and quickly noticed one of the suspects. He was dragging some reinforced crates into the van, and his 4 hands were very useful for this. Another of the targets was driving a van and looking at the rear-view mirrors. He didn't even realize that in his mirror, Amiya saw 2 more of the same crates in the van. The third suspect showed up. From his noticeable muscles, Amiya guessed that this was the one with the strength quirk. All information about them is already listed in the files. Nodding to himself, he pointed Midoriya to the van next to the suspects. Here are our guys. One at the wheel, looking at the mirrors. The other 2 are carrying boxes. They have some kind of strengthening quirks, right? Midoriya asked. I can see from here that they are carrying something, and judging by their movements, they are trying to be careful. There must be something important in them. In such situations, the transfer of items should be entrusted to those who can move it without difficulty. Yes, one with 4 hands. Then potentially he has the ability to create limbs or complete manipulation of the body. Although no, if there was a complete manipulation of the body, then 2 strong limbs would be enough for him. The body strives for economy and efficiency. In any case, a small problem. Yes, and the second one is just a brute, and he seems to be already running out of steam. A simple strength quirk. Moreover, it's not particularly powerful, since his partner is still fine, judging by your comments. Is this your homework on the theory of quirks, or what? We have already been given information about them. Yes, I just haven't read it. If there is an opportunity to practice in a quick analysis, then it is worth doing it. It's not like we are going to fight them. We don't have such an opportunity. Considering how much the car was sagged under the load of these containers, the van will lift only another 3 to 4 boxes. Is there something that this person does not see? Midoriya thought, we need to put a tracking device. The plan is this. You get to the roof of that building next to them from inside, and then launch a bug at them with your pistol, like back then with the sludge villain, or like when we stumbled upon the street vigilante. It won't work. Why is that? After that incident with the vigilante, I realized that it was necessary to strengthen the attachment of bugs. Therefore, if I now send a bug to them on the roof of the van, then its attachment will be noticed from inside the car. Damn! Then we try another option. We have 2 minutes for this. Do you see that girl over there and that ledge on the road next to the van? No, I don't. Anyway, listen. Amiya, according to plan, was walking peacefully along the road. 10 meters away from him, a van was parked on the street. After 5 seconds, he will pass by the girl mentioned earlier. Behind him, about 20 meters away, Midoriya was having a morning run, slowly catching up with him. Now, running past the girl, with a slight blush on his face, he turned around as Amiya said, check her out, continuing to run forward. All this was, of course, a farce, but for Midoriya such things were quite unusual. 15 years of practically closed life can do this to a person. Turning to the girl, Midoriya did not notice Amiya walking in front of him, and they collided. That very ledge on the road acted as a catalyst of fall, and they both fell to the ground. What do you think you're doing, brat? Don't you see I'm walking here? Shouted Amiya. Midoriya waved his hands in panic. Excuse me, please. Are you hurt? Get the hell out of here. Stupid kids. Yeah, I am very sorry. Get the fuck out of the way, said the brute, carrying another crate. If at least one of these falls because of you, you both will work all your life to repay for it. TSK, those were nice pants, muttered Amiya, sitting in the car. Well, at least the plan was successful. I don't think they noticed how you threw a bug under their car while you were falling. Let's hope so. Undisclosed location, 1:37 a.m. Amiya and Midoriya were outside the city, watching after a long building between a forest. Amiya, of course, found a higher point for himself and began to observe the house without any equipment. The same could not be said about Midoriya, who was about 500 meters away from him. He wouldn't have helped much without binoculars. I see a corridor. 5 people, 3 armed. One of the unarmed looks more like some kind of doctor. There are 2 rows of rooms on the sides. What have you got? Amiya told him over the walkie-talkie. I see just 2 rooms. There's a crate in one of them. One of the ones we saw this morning. It looks like... Wait! They are talking about something. He can read lips from such a distance. Where's the 8th? There should have been 8 crates in place. That's what Doctor said. There was no room downstairs, so we put in one of the rooms. Imbeciles, drag it down. Put one on top of another. I don't care how. Just make sure they don't fall. One of the pawns got angry. Said Amiya. One of them grabbed his weapon. Another one guy, unarmed, created slight fire. HM. What is it, Amiya-san? Something beyond my vision seems to have scared them. They went to get the box. It looks like we've stumbled upon something serious. Izuka said, "Oh, really?" was a sarcastic reply. Should we call the heroes? Not yet. We don't know what's inside. We better move with a plan. They were talking about, it seems, some kind of basement. It is unknown how many of them are inside. Retreat for now. Next day, HBSC Enforcer Center, briefing room, 10:41 p.m. 2 squads of enforcers gathered in the briefing room, as well as Midoriya, Amiya, and a couple of heroes, Edshot and Crimson Riot, being chosen by Midoriya. So, Amiya started standing near the screen. An image of the area was displayed on it. Yesterday morning, me and Operative Midoriya. The eyes of the people in the hall turned for a moment to Midoriya, who was standing next to Amiya. His face was serious, and he didn't flinch from the sudden attention. According to the order, we've been watching after a group of 3 former criminals. Arriving at the place, we found them carrying heavy containers that required care. I will assume that the weight of each of them was about 100 kilograms. These crates received considerable attention from our targets, so I decided it was worth of noting. These boxes were taken to this building outside the city. Amiya changed the image of a button and showed the groups the building. After a few moments, the image of the building changed to its location on the map, the reason why we are all here. There were 5 people in the building at the time of observation. 3 were armed, have amplifying quirks. The 4th was seen using a fire quirk. The latter was not a fighter, more like a scientist. The quirk is unknown. The building has some basement in which these boxes were stacked. Therefore, we need to be extremely careful. Midoriya? Why, yes. Ahem. Edshot and Crimson Riot were chosen for this operation. In this operation, we want to be as careful as we can, so we need a minimum of explosive force. The strengthening ability of Crimson Riot for this scenario, from my point of view, is most suitable. A combination of protection and strength that does not destroy everything around. Therefore, you, Crimson Riot, will lead the assault group. Your presence will help to quickly crush the enemy. Said Hero nodded. However, on top of that, we must have an element of surprise. And here you are the best option for any operation of this kind, Edshot. Because of that, you are very experienced at this kind of thing. Your task is to infiltrate and disable the security system, if there is one. Until then, the rest, including Crimson Riot, are waiting in ambush until the Edshot signal. We use electric, plastic ammunition. We don't know what in the box is, so let's not take any chances. We will stop here. Midoriya pointed out a place on the map. Then we go on foot. Sounds good, said Edshot. There are quite a lot of us, so a quick and sudden strike may be the only one necessary. Muttered Crimson Riot, getting up. Okay, guys, are you ready to crush the assholes? Yeah, let's show them. I asked if you were ready. Yeah, the squads of privates shouted in response. Then we don't waste any time. Get to your vehicles. Ordered Amiya, HBSC Enforcer Center Exteriors. 11:02 p.m. 3 armored cars left the garage, quickly passing the checkpoint and leaving the territory. There were few cars in this region at night, allowing the column of cars to accelerate. Amiya was sitting in the driver's seat. Midoriya was sitting next to him in the passenger seat with a rifle in his hands. Clad in black uniform, a group of operatives was sitting in the back of the car. Crimson Riot chose to stand next to the driver's seat, looking forward to the front window. "Since when are you not one-man squad, Amiya?" he asked, looking at Midoriya, and such a young addition at that. "HM, it's been 5 months. But is he that young? As far as I know, children at this age are already interning with heroes." "Yes, that they do. But in such operations, we keep them at a distance. The essence of the internship is training with heroes and a closer understanding of the work of heroes." "Really? What about hero work studies? Then don't give me that crap about keeping kids away from serious jobs. There's a difference. Only those who have received licenses are accepted for work studies, which means only licensed and trained young heroes." "Well, here's the answer. Midoriya is already a trained and licensed operative. Add to that the fact that he's practically graduated from a course in quirk theory." Midoriya's eyes widened in surprise. Some kind of praise from Amiya was always a rarity for him. It's not every day you see Amiya praising someone. "Apparently, you are a man of certain talents, young Midoriya. What's your quirk?" "I don't have a quirk, sir," Midoriya replied, looking straight into Crimson Riot's eyes, occasionally glancing at Amiya. The fact of Amiya's praise was still a bit surprising. Crimson Riot's eyebrows rose. "HM, and yet you're here? And I see that you hold your head proudly. I respect your manliness, young Midoriya." "Thank you, sir. Operation site, 2:01 a.m. Checking the connection. First group?" Amiya said into the walkie-talkie. "In touch. The second group?" "Here. Form a perimeter." Amiya turned to Edgeshot. "And you?" "The connection is fine." "Then let's get it started." Edgeshot turned his body into a thin line and quickly disappeared from view. Young hero number 5 entered the building through a crack under the door. There were only 4 people in the main room, as mentioned earlier. However, there were no boxes, to which considerable attention was paid anywhere. So, first of all, the search for at least some kind of security system. Now, to find the basement. Inside the hideout, 2:02 a.m. For such an expert as Edgeshot, determining the irregularity in the floor and finding a passage is an easy task. "I found a passage. I'm going down," Edgeshot said, quietly. After going down for 3 meters, he found himself in a small corridor. At the far end was a sealed metal door. On the right was an ordinary one. Penetration of the second one won't be a problem. There were 2 people sitting at a table and a block of monitors, with screens broadcasting the image from cameras. "Is everything okay?" A voice sounded in the radio of one of the monitors. "Yes, it seems nothing yet." "Wait, no, nothing. How long do we have to stay here?" 2 days and we leave. It feels like we've been here for years." "Stop the whining. Go get some coffee or something." "Yeah." One got up from his chair and turned to find something to drink. He turned to his comrade. "Stop reading the stupid news. Take over Dash." When he turned around, he saw his friend with his face on the table. He didn't have a moment to react as a sharp blow knocked him out. However, before he fell, he was caught by Edgeshot. "They don't watch the cameras. I didn't see any alarm buttons on the first floor. No boxes have been found, but I think I know where they are. There are 4 upstairs, the same ones from the briefing. No scientist. Here we go." Amiya shouted. "First group on the assault. Split up and go in from both sides. Riot, create a new entrance. Second squad, hold your positions. Guard the perimeter. Let's go," shouted Crimson Riot. Having strengthened his skin, this juggernaut rushed toward the house, and half of the group followed him, while the other went toward the door. Picking up speed, Crimson Riot flew into the building, breaking through the wall. "It's heroes!" "Fuck!" "Fire!" Bullets flew off the reinforced skin of Crimson Riot. Edshot failed to mention that the four-armed guy decided to go Rambo and got a weapon in all of his arms. Crimson Hero decided to protect the enforcers, while they were using him as movable cover. The second half of the group flew in, destroying door. However, the operatives were detained by a wave of fire coming from a single unarmed militant. I fucking love when it's extra crispy. Wanna try, you fuckers? He sent another wave of fire, pushing the operatives back. Riot. Midoriya, who was in the first group, shouted. He ducked behind Crimson Riot when another wave of fire approached. The man, without wasting a moment, switched from protection mode, shoved operatives behind a wall, and went into full-on attack mode, running toward the criminal with a fire quirk. The eyes of the villain widened in surprise, and without having time to react properly, he was caught by the neck and slammed into the ground, losing consciousness. As he was moving, destroying the wooden floor, enforcers went on a quick assault and with shocking bullets neutralized some criminals. The remaining part of the villains had been quickly suppressed and now lay unconscious. Midoriya and Amiya entered the now safe building. The work is not finished yet. Inspect the building. Said Amiya. Edge dash. Egg. A low moan from the criminal with a fire quirk interrupted Amiya, and he, along with Midoriya, turned to look at him. The villain was still unconscious, but began to twitch on the ground and emit light. It was barely there, and only a quirk specialist like Midoriya and far-sighted Amiya noticed it. But there was a problem. Over time, the emitted light began to intensify. Midoriya, with wide eyes, shouted, "Everyone leave the building." Wadash! Amiya was surprised and turned to Midoriya, but immediately repeated, "Leave the building." Edshot, find some shelter. The group began to run away. Crimson Riot waited for the others to come out and left the building last, not really sure what all of this was about. Amiya turned to Midoriya. "Midoriya, what dash?" A huge explosion knocked him off balance. Whoa! Many operatives fell to the ground. The closest operatives would have been caught in the explosion, but Crimson Riot sheltered them, protecting them with his quirk. It didn't save his costume, though. "What the fuck?" Said Amiya. "Midoriya, what was that?" You are the quirk expert here. What was that?" "I don't know," said the rising Midoriya, wiping dirt and sweat from his forehead. "And that's exactly why I decided we should run." He was definitely unconscious. To create such an explosion in such a state, this is the first time I've heard of such a thing. How is this possible? "Edshot, what do you have?" Amiya said, getting up and walking toward the now blown-up building. "One of them is buried. The other guy had his legs crushed. But considering whatever happened up there, he is the lucky one here." "Got it. Riot and I are coming to you. The first group, connect with the second. And Midoriya?" "Why, yes. Call a medical helicopter here, and someone from the police for further investigation." Midoriya exhaled deeply. "I'll do it." Amiya nodded and walked towards the basement. "This is Midoriya speaking." "The base is listening, Agent Midoriya. The operation is successful. However, a medical helicopter is urgently needed at our location." "Acknowledged." 3 cargo transports are also required, and have the police send out an inspection squad. ETA, 41 minutes. Midoriya exhaled shakily, finishing the request over the walkie-talkie, and went toward the building. However, he stopped when he saw the leader of his squad. "Amiya-san." "Let's go." Didn't he go with Crimson Riot? Midoriya thought. However, the following picture clearly did not have any intention of leaving his memory. Unfortunately, parts of the criminals' bodies were sticking out from under the rubble here, and Midoriya's breathing quickened in front of such a picture. "Midoriya." Amiya barked. "Let's go." "Why, yes." Midoriya's gaze did not leave the broad back of his commander. Never before has it taken so much effort to keep breathing even. He was thankful that the leader decided to wait for him. Hideout basement, 2:12 a.m. The boy called the medics. "We are not moving him yet," said Crimson Riot. "Sigh, let at least someone survive in all this mess. A villain, a hero, an ordinary person, it doesn't matter. Any death that Crimson Riot thought he could have prevented was a heavy burden on his heart. He closed his eyes and crossed his arms, exhaling deeply. "What exactly happened out there?" said Edshot, nursing his side. "It seems he was not unscathed himself. I don't know, really. Everything just exploded suddenly. I don't know how young Miradia or Amiya noticed this, but thanks to them we don't have any casualties on our side." "Is he alive?" asked the newcomer Amiya. Midoriya was right behind him. "Yes, we are waiting for the medics." Amiya nodded and turned towards a bent steel door. "Can you open it, Riot?" "Only one way to find out." Crimson Riot came to the door, applied his quirk to his hands, and dug into the door. "Iiiichich," shouted Riot, opening the door. After that, he waved his hands, breathing quickly. "Heh, and here's your answer." A dark room appeared before them. In the middle of this room was an operating table. On the left side of the room was a row of empty glass containers, with a few yellow stains on them. On the right side was a row of desks and several computers. On the far side, against the wall, there was a single-filled container, in which an illegible figure could be seen. To the right were the ill-fated crates. "Is this a lab?" I looked around Edshot. "It looks like that doctor isn't here," said Amiya. Midoriya was still following him quietly. "I don't see any secret passages around here," which means he was not here when we appeared. Noted Edshot. Despite all the equipment, there were no samples or documents around. Computers, upon deeper inspection, turned out to be only empty cases. Thus, there are only two objects of interest left. A couple of heroes and operatives approached the only filled container. As they approached, the outline of the figure in the tank became more distinct. It was wearing black armor. The reason why it was hard to make out was the black fog coming from him. "What the hell?" Riot asked quietly. "He," Midoriya said. "His armor looks like a white knight." Now that you've said it, young Midoriya, I'm starting to notice the similarities, too." Edshot said. "What white knight?" asked Riot. "I've heard that name somewhere." Amiya said, crossing his arms. "He was from Shiketsu and made his debut when he studied with Yoroi Musha. They worked together because of his interesting quirk." "What's his quirk?" Midoriya turned to Amiya. "It's a mental quirk with elements of psychokinesis. By picking up a weapon, he could strengthen it, as well as determine how to use the weapon best. The problem here is different. After the debut, he was no longer in the media space at all." Midoriya asked Amiya, "How come you always remember heroes that disappear from the media?" Midoriya cleared his throat. "I make notes on every hero I find interesting and watch them starting from their debuts. And, well, I look through my notes quite often. I am choosing heroes for the operations. After all, Amiya should have guessed." "Okay," he said. "We need to get him out of here. What about the boxes?" "I'll open it," said Riot. "Be careful." Applying a quirk to his fingers, he bit into the lid of the box. The lid opened, and immediately everyone present wanted to bring it back. Inside was a reinforced glass container filled with liquid, and in the liquid, there was an unconscious man. "Motherfucker," said Riot. "Shit" was a comment from Amiya. Midoriya's breath caught. That day, it seemed, was not going to reduce the degree of tension. Everyone's gaze shifted to the remaining boxes. "Is it just that one or all of them?" said Midoriya. "Contain people?" Everyone's thoughts sooner or later came to one thought. What exactly have we stumbled upon? Highway, during the trip back to HBSC headquarters. 4:13 a.m. Early in the morning, a group of 3 armored cars escorted transports with containers on the way to the base. Midoriya, who again took the passenger seat next to Amiya, decided to take a nap. The number of shocking events for the day was off the scale. As his mother said, sleep is the best medicine. If you feel bad or in a bad mood, get some sleep. If it didn't help, then the illness should be taken more seriously. That's why we keep students away from such things," said Riot quietly. Amiya's face was filled with annoyance. "We are not a hero school. The sooner he encounters this, the better." The operative answered him. Is this your opinion or the opinion of your high-ups? Mine. There was silence until the end of the trip. HBSC headquarters exterior, 7:40 a.m. Midoriya and Amiya watched as a cargo transport was leaving toward the research center from the HBSC garage. How are you? Amiya asked. Better, yeah, said Midoriya. It's not that this was the first time I saw such images. It's just watching uncensored news and seeing everything with your own eyes are two different things. Yeah, Miya-san? Did you also have such moment when you were in such a gory scene? Amiya closed his eyes. I didn't. Izuku was about to say something, but Amiya continued. And before you ask, no, I don't think it's normal. That made Izuku close his mouth. Midoriya. Amiya crossed his arms. I would suggest you go and eat, but I don't think you're in the mood for food right now. Midoriya scratched his head with a slight smile. I'll give you 4 days. Go home. Get some rest. Didn't you hear? I said, I'm giving you 4 days to rest. Go and see your mother. But what if there was another mission, or dash? 3 days. Go home. Get ready for your courses, or something. I expect not to see you for the next 3 days. Okay. Midoriya surrendered. Maybe Amiya was right. In such a shaken state, the work will go hard. And Midoriya stopped and turned to his leader. Good job today. A slight smile appeared on Midoriya's face. After changing into casual clothes, Midoriya went to the armory and took his personal rifle case. After that, he headed towards the exit. After passing through the checkpoint, Midoriya immediately headed toward the station to catch a train to Mizurufu. He hasn't been home for a month, and video calls with his mother are different from a real meeting. Inko, in order to fight loneliness in her big house, decided to work as a tutor after the job, and today was a weekend, so she should be home. Midoriya had plenty of money, so he decided to take a taxi to get home. The time was already closer to lunch. Getting out of the car near his house, Midoriya noticed a couple of students walking towards his house. It looks like some of Mom's students. Okay, Izuku, this is your moment to hone your socialization skills. Excuse me, Midoriya addressed him. Are you here for tutoring? Good start, he cheered himself. Hey, yes. Hi. A well-built, red-haired guy greeted him. Honestly, for Izuku, he looked like a small crimson riot. The image of the gory scene reappeared in his head. He held back from wincing in front of the students. Izuku fought down the memory of the scene. He really needed to rest. Hello. A girl with pink skin and horns on her head greeted him in kind. Did you come to study too? No. I live here. I've been coming here for 2 months, but this is the first time I'm seeing you, she exclaimed. I'm working. Midoriya smiled and waved toward the house, inviting them past. But sometimes I come here. They are really easy to talk to. Ho, working at that age. The red-haired guy was surprised. I can understand. Part-time work helps a lot when you study far from home. Izuku sighed. But what now? What are things that normal people are interested in? Arcades, karaoke, maybe heroes? But how can I get to the theme? Wait, I didn't even introduce himself. My name is Mina Shido. Before Midoriya could correct the boy, Mina interrupted him. And this guy here is Kirishima Ijiro. But soon you'll know me as Red Riot. He added with a smile. Oh, they got to theme themselves. Thanks. Oh, so you want to become heroes then? Yeah. Yep. We are preparing for the entrance to UA. We kinda, not the sharpest tools in shed, but we are working hard. Mina added with a nervous laugh. Wow. But this is the most prestigious hero school. It's going to be hard, but you are preparing, so I think you will be fine. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't introduce myself. I am Midoriya Izuku. You seem to be a Crimson Riot fan, am I right, Kirishima-san? Kirishima straightened up with a smile of his face. Am I that easy to read? That's true. Thanks to him, I am who I am now. Wow. Well, I can tell. Red hair, strong shape. I wouldn't be surprised if you have the similar strengthening quirk. That's the case. I take it back. I'm a little surprised, he said with a smile. They entered the house. If you want, I can get you an autograph, Midoriya offered. Eh? Seriously? No, wait, how? Yes. I didn't correct you earlier, but I'm not a student. I work at HBSC. He often comes to us. Both students stopped dead in their tracks. HBSC as if... Kirishima began. As if that HBSC? Mina finished. Yes, please. Kirishima shouted. I want one too. Added a Shido for the company. She wasn't such a Riot fan, but if you have the opportunity, then you need to grab it. Izuku, is that you? Oh! Ashido-chan, Kirishima-kun are with you. Hi, Mom. I'm staying for a bit longer time this time. Midoriya smiled. The presence of his mom immediately began to calm him nerves. The Crimson Riot topic, as a reminder of today's operation, was still a bit uncomfortable, but now it became noticeably easier. Hello, Mrs. Midoriya. Her students greeted her. I'll be down in a minute. Izuku, could you please make them some tea? Of course. While we're waiting, tell us about HBSC. Mina asked, It's so connected with the work of heroes. What are you doing there? Are you working with ratings? Are you helping with press conferences? Deformed faces bodies lying under the ruins of a building in blood. So much blood everywhere stop. Izuku quickly suppressed those thoughts. It was a good thing he had his back to them while he was making the tea. No, I am a certified quirk specialist almost an enforcer. Their eyes widened. Why, you mean you participate in combat operations? Kirishima asked. Yes, but I can't say anything more than that. So manly. One could see fire in Kirishima's eyes. I'm more interested in the part about the quirk specialist. Mina said, You still have contact with people that make the ratings, right? How far do you think I can get with my quirk? I can create acid and control its acridity. Midoriya pondered while serving them tea. He turned to them with a tray. When he put it on the table, his face as if switched. It became much more serious in a moment. Can you create acid only from your hands or from the whole body? From the whole body. It can affect her costume design to show more skin. Certainly a plus to the ratings. She seems to have a lot of positive energy too, and since she is here for tutoring means, she can not only see her downsides, but has an attitude to work on them. Everything else will mostly form by how far can she push her quirk. I wonder if she can make cooling gels or a softening pad with it. Uh-huh. He hummed, looking at her with a calculating gaze. That lasted a few moments. Should I pose for you? Mina suggested with a smile. Izuku's serious face broke into a small smile. I guess I can see her in top 1,000 at one point. No, sorry. I think you can go pretty high. Ashido-san Midoriya supported her. The ratings depend not only on your quirk, Ashido-san. Your behavior, interviews, and even costume design will help a lot. There's also the fact that you are quite cute cough will definitely help, but the very fact that you take extra classes shows your serious attitude. And this, in the end, is the most important. I'm sorry, what did you say? Before the serious attitude part, Mina asked. Here I am. Inko said as she entered the dining room. I'll go to my room then. Izuku quickly retreated. Of course. I'm sorry to meet you like this. Izuku, your arrival was a little sudden. Yeah, it's nothing, I understand. Entering his room, Midoriya first sat down at the table and took out a piece of paper. The object of his interest is today's villain with a fire quirk. What caused this explosion? Incidents with quirks have happened before, but not at this level. Incidents with people who unconsciously apply quirks should not exceed 1/10 of the carrier's abilities. And even then, such a figure was only once in history. Midoriya began to describe possible theories of what had happened. If the enemy has used some kind of drug, then it is worth considering the possibility of it getting to other villains. This will lead to a repeat of today's case. Another option that Midoriya considered was that Crimson Riot, while shoving the villain into the floor, damaged his brain and, possibly, disabled all internal limiters. Heck, this topic had so little information that it would be possible to come up with any explanation. Before you think about it, you need to wait for a blood test. and talk to Professor Hiroto about it. Ugh! I hope he doesn't make this my last exam. I don't think I can pass it. Izuku. Huh? Yes, Mom? Are you done? For how long was he sitting there? It felt like a few minutes. Yes, sweetie. Let's go. While you were sitting here, I made you Katsudon. Really? Thank you. He hugged his mom. You're the best. Of course I'm the best. Come on. Tell me where the sudden arrival came from. I'm sorry. I can't say anything more. Inko came over and hugged her son, and Amiya-san gave me the weekends to rest. She tried not to show it, but her son's participation in operations certainly does not calm her down in any way. He gave you the weekend off, and the first thing you do is think about work. Noted Inko. Well, not really. Here the interest is not specifically in the work, but in the peculiarities of his quirk. While there is an opportunity, you need to absorb any knowledge. I agree with you on that, but you still need to rest. You were quite talkative with my students today. Well, they're not from Aldera, so they didn't avoid me, and they somehow easily made contact. Ever since Midoriya came back with a burn on his side at the age of 4, his Sashi has made a couple calls. After that, the shocked Bakugo and his friends avoided Midoriya like fire. This, of course, was a tough step for Izuku, who lost contact with almost all his peers in early childhood. But his Sashi could not put up with such an attitude towards his son. Yeah, those two are like that. A small smile appeared on her face. More tea. Yes, please. Another mission? Oh, okay. I'll be there tomorrow. Answered Izuku on the phone with a frown. That was fast. No. Rest. Answered Amiya. This one is not urgent, brat. I just wanted to notify you. Take some fancier non-combat clothes. Also, your self-made rifle most likely will stay at home. So, if you are working on something at home, work at your pistol. What kind of mission is that? Amiya-san? Bodyguard mission. Be bodyguard? But aren't we, recon squad? Why would they give us a bodyguard mission? Hell if I know. The man that requested a bodyguard is one of our biggest sponsors, or investors, whatever. Because of that, he has a little army one phone call away. Apparently, he wanted our squad for this for about 4 months. That's strange. Exactly. So, I wouldn't be surprised if he wants you specifically. Me? But why? You said he is one of our sponsors, and has a little army one phone call away. He sounds very rich. Wouldn't such a guy want someone as professional and experienced as he could get? And that's certainly not me 4 months ago. I don't know. From what I know, rich people usually have some strange fetishes. I really hope that's not the case. A shiver went down Miradia's spine. Well, you can always consider him being acquainted to your father. Please, not the fetish, Midoriya thought. To be honest, the mention of his father is already starting to get a little annoying. Don't get him wrong, he loved his father. But when so many things happened just because of his relationship with Hisashi, it was a little devastating. When will he be looked at as Izuku and not as Hisashi's son? Anyway, Amiya continued. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you. Tan Man wordlessly hung up. Midoriya sighed. Another mission was coming already. Now, where was he? Oh, yes, sleeping. HBSC Headquarters and Forces Center, 11:02 a.m. How are you feeling? Asked Amiya as he and Midoriya walked to the locker room. Better. While resting, I focus more on how to prevent this from happening in the future. No matter how you look at it, this explosion was too unexpected. It was like there was a completely different quirk. Once, on the theory of quirks, a villain was mentioned with a quirk that could activate other people's quirks. It was only because of him that people in an unconscious state could use quirks at the usual level of power, or even higher. However, Midoriya continued to mutter different theories considering the explosion caused by the fire-wielding criminal. Amiya learned to half ignore, half listen to the boy. Even if it was hard to follow the boy's fast thinking, he was the reason why no one died during the last operation. A possibility of second quirk was there. If reports from the research facility were true, the White Knight, or whatever was left of him, had different alpha cells inside. That meant The object of research didn't just have different powers. No, it was not just a combination of his parents' quirks. They were added forcefully. And all people in the containers had similar regenerative quirks. Amiya glanced at Midoriya, who was still muttering on the way. With all the implications, it looked like work of all for one. Damn, Izuku was way too young, at least when it comes to work against that kind of villain. YAO _ connection lost. Please, try again later. 2:14 p.m. Welcome, greeted the man in a bright beige, branded shirt. He was tall, lean, and had short black hair. Midoriya and Amiya, dressed in black official suits, were standing in the lobby of a rather large house, or palace. To be accurate, the HBSC has finally sent you, Agent Amiya and Midoriya. My name is Yaoyorozu Ikaru. Nice to finally meet you, young Midoriya. Midoriya bowed, while Amiya crossed his hands. Pleased to meet you, sir, politely greeted Midoriya. Please come through. It can get windy here. While the pair of operatives was being led down the corridor, Ikaru spoke again. As you may have noticed, we have a good security. Your integration in it will not take long. However, it is mostly designed for the house security. I need something different this time. They were brought to what looked like a dining room. Please take a seat. The pair of operatives did exactly that. The tanned, older opiated put on leg over another and crossed his arms, leaning back into his chair. So, what are our objectives, Ikaru-san? Asked Amiya. Follow you when you are outside? Threaten someone you don't like? No, nothing like that. Ikaru waved his hand in denial. As you two probably know, underground criminal activity is on the rise lately. Faces of the operatives turned much more serious, but Amiya raised his eyebrow in question. Ikaru turned to Amiya. Especially abduction of people with certain quirks. Amiya sighed. Word travels fast. Please, don't be surprised. Amiya-san, answered Ikaru. Your operation from a few days ago was not the first time something like that happened. So he continued, what I want is not a protection for me. I am but a billionaire with an unimpressive quirk. He smiled for a moment. Ikaru stood up and approached the phone. Honey, could you please come to the dining room? He said to the phone. Nodding to himself, he hung up. Sorry. You know, with all those huge houses, it's really hard to find someone you need in it. Calling someone when you both are in the same house is a routine now. A pair of footsteps was heard quickly approaching. Yes, father? You wanted to see me? A young girl entered the room and noticed a pair of operative. She was quite tall and was wearing a pair of shorts and a casual loose t-shirt. Her long, black hair was tied in a ponytail. Ah, Momo. That was quite fast. Ikaru smiled. These two are operatives from HPSC. I called them here to be your bodyguards. Was everything that came out of her. They will live here for some time. I hope you get along. Now it was Izuku's turn to express his surprise. Amiya groaned. Dealing with two teenagers was one thing, but dealing with a pair of teenagers was a whole different matter. Maybe a fetishist wouldn't be that bad. After all, 5 months before UA. Connection established. Yaoyorozu residence. 2:21 p.m. Still shaken, Momo stood with her eyes wide open at the people gathered at the table. Momo, please show this young man Dash. Ikaru Yaoyorozu pointed at Midoriya. A couple of important places around the house. He's here for the first time. Amiya, who is always attentive to the smallest details, noticed how one of the girl's eyebrows was slightly quivering. As expected, he thought. Yes, father. She quickly left the room, forcing Midoriya to quickly follow her. So, Amiya, Yoichiro began with a grin. Did you find yourself a younger brother? Amiya felt his brow twitch. Please don't joke like that, Yaoyorozu-san. Our relationship is exclusively professional. Whatever you say. Ikaru smirked. About the purpose of our stay here. Amiya now addressed him. You said that the crime rate is rising. I do not know who gave you that information, but the situation is exactly the opposite. In what sense? Are you saying the crime rate is falling? That's exactly what I want to say. Recently, only the number of missing people has increased. The usual robberies have become slightly less often. However, the biggest change was in activity of all underground groups. The rate decreased by 27%. In addition to this, cases of cooperation between the groups have become more frequent. Ishigun narrowed his eyes. Something's not right here. What happened to cause negative growth? I have a suspicion, but I can't be completely sure. There is no direct evidence. And how bad is it? 9.5/10 bad. Darn. Then I understand why you don't talk about it in front of Izuku. Has All Might been informed yet? Not yet. As I said, his presence is no direct evidence. Aikaru leaned on a chair, rubbing nose between his eyes. The situation was not easy, but he was glad that he had prepared for something like this much in advance. Keeping his daughter's quirk a secret was the right decision. So, Amiya said, why us? You got enough chain dogs as it is. I'll give you one try. The brat. Exactly. Are you trying to collect Hisashi Midoriya's entire collection? All of you are rich fetishists, after all. Hey, don't be so offended. That's also why you work for me for the first time. Hisashi was a good friend to me, so giving his boys the opportunity to prove themselves in isolation from him and his reputation is only a joy for me. Moreover, I pay, as far as I know, quite nicely. Didn't you buy your sports car after the first month here? This did happen. Amiya gave up. Aikaru had a point. Well, it's not just that. Hisashi and I are the older generation. Aikaru frowned a little. And Izuku and Momo are a newer one. I would like for our friendship to continue through generations. Amiya raised an eyebrow. I think you fucked up then, he said. Aikaru was surprised. What are you talking about? Ridiculous. Utterly ridiculous. Yaya rose and Momo was annoyed, angry, and she had every right to be. A young girl leads her whole life with a certain level of secrecy. On the right, there's an exit to the main courtyard, she said to the young operative following her, without turning around or slowing down. As soon as her quirk appeared, her parents put several information barriers around her. Being old enough, Momo understood that such a universal quirk could interest too many people, hence the secrecy. But the problem is the very fact of secrecy. She practically does not leave the house, except from home to school and then back. And even then, she had a personal chauffeur. She's always under surveillance. Isn't that enough? On the right, through the window, you can see the servant's house where you are most likely to live. She continued walking down the hallway. She hoped the young agent didn't fall behind. The house was big, and she had no particular desire to go around the second circle. Momo was very out of sorts. It's not enough that she hides her quirk. Not only is it monitored at every step. Now there was a personal guard. Seriously, what's next? Cameras in the room and the toilet. And here is my room. Momo said, please don't bother me for now. She said without turning around. Slam. Because it's obvious that your daughter wasn't thrilled with your decision. Amiya said, closing his eyes. He wished he could see Midoriya's face now. Izuku wasn't familiar with this kind of situations. Did he do something wrong? But he didn't do anything. No, he did follow her. But he did it because Aikaru-san said that she would show him places in house. Didn't that mean he had to go after her? And it's hardly a problem that he said something wrong. Again, he didn't say anything. Then maybe the problem is that he didn't say anything. By now, Midoriya's eyes had widened to the size of saucers. How will he spend some more time here if he was disliked so quickly in the first seconds and by the person he was supposed to protect? It seems that Ishido and Kirishima, whom he met a couple of days ago, were exceptions after all. They are the ones who were easy to contact, and not Midoriya was good at communication. Heck, stop it. Midoriya yelled at himself in his head. How will you spend more time here? Through diligence and willpower as always? Probably, it's not really be possible to communicate well with people through sheer willpower. Apparently, all the conversations will have to be transferred to Amiya, and he himself will have to follow him in silence. What if she was so angry because of him? Amiya-sen doesn't seem to be here for the first time. Maybe she knows him? For the first time, Midoriya was filled with such confusion. "Who are you?" An elderly woman asked him all of a sudden. She came with a tray of tea. Midoriya Zuko, ma'am." He bowed, an operative from Hero Public Safety Commission. "Ah, a Midoriya in our house in a fancy suit and a firearm at his side. Years go by, but something stayed the same," she said with a chuckle. Before Zuko could ask for an explanation, the woman pointed at the door. "Could you let me in?" Izuku turned back to the door and noticed that he, in fact, was still standing in the same spot from where the door was almost slammed at his face. "Why, yeah, sorry." He took a different spot, but not too far from the room. He still had no idea what to do, so decided to wait for either Amiya, Ikaru-san, or Momo-san to show up and tell him. The woman entered the room and disappeared there for quite some time. Slam. Being in the safety of her room, Momo opened the window a crack and exhaled deeply. She sat down at her desk and took her face in her hands. "I'm so tired of this," she thought. "I do not want to live like this. How long will it last?" She sighed again. Then her hands clenched into a fist and her face became more serious. "That's it. No more lies, no more secrets, no more people trying to protect me at every step. And for that, this decision was based on years of reflection and doubt. But it had to be done. I'll become a professional hero." She sighed. Momo would be lying if she said that this decision was not made partly to spite her father. This goes against everything that has been done for her all these years. Her quirk will become known very quickly, but she's old enough to decide what to do with her life. To continue life the way she is leading it now will be a continuous psychological stress. After all, the most unhappy people are the ones who have everything the world was created to achieve. Phew, this decision is not an easy one. Maybe she should sleep on this first. But if she decides to go down this path, the least she can do for her parents is to let them help her. Now she will be a good girl and will accept all their attempts to protect her. Momo picked up the phone and called the head maid. "Kumasawa-san, I'd like some tea. Could you bring it to my room?" "Of course, Momo-chan. I'll be there in a few minutes." Momo sighed, visibly calming down. Thinking about becoming a hero, she thought first of all about her psychological well-being. To go against what her parents are doing with her life. She understood them. Truly. But she didn't want to live like that. She has 5 more months to prepare herself for the practical exam in the hero school. Not that she doubted her physical abilities, but she would definitely be weaker than those with years of training. She needed to inform her father about the decision so that he could find someone to train her. Momo glanced at the door. "I should apologize for my behavior," she thought. "They were hired to risk themselves and protect me. It's not his fault. God, I didn't even ask his name. Momo, learn to control your emotions." Knock on the door. "It's me, Momo-chan." "Ah, Kumasawa-san. Please, come in." An elderly woman came in with a tray of tea. "Your favorite," said the woman. "Has something happened? You look tired." Tired? You could say that. I made a very important decision today," said the Yaoyorozu heiress. "So that's how it is. With a cup of tea, it is always easier to think and relax. By the way, Momo-chan, who is that boy standing outside your door? Looks about your age. He looks, however, somehow lost, but he is so polite." "My age? This is one of my new bodyguards." Momo said, "Wow, Ikaru-sama, as always, does not skim on you, Momo-chan. But isn't he too young for that?" "I don't know. To be honest, Kumasawa-san, I treated him rather rudely. I should apologize to him. I lost my temper a little when I found out that my father decided to put a guard on me." "I can understand your feelings, Momo-chan. But I think you should look at the situation from the other side." "How's that?" asked Momo, taking a sip of tea. "Well, this boy may be one of your guards, but you're about the same age. On top of that, he seems to be staying here for a while. Maybe you should try to treat him as a peer and not as a bully with a weapon at his side." The elder maid had, as always, a soothing effect on young Yaoyorozu heiress. "You're probably right. Thank you, Kumasawa-san. Glad to help Momo-chan." Ikara's mouth turned into a smirk before taking a sip of tea. He glanced at Amiya. I think I know my daughter well enough. A few minutes later, Izuku saw the woman leaving the room with Momo, while the maid decided to take her leave. Momo approached him. Indeed, he looks very young, she thought, looking at him fully for the first time. Midoriya didn't know what to expect, given not the best first impression. She bowed. I'm terribly sorry for my behavior. Please, let's start over. Momo said, straightening up. My name is Yaoyorozu Momo. Please take care of me. Izuku internally sighed in relief. He bowed in kind. I am Midoriya Izuku. Pleased to meet you. Momo looked at him with a small smile. Father asked me to show you some places, so you won't get lost around here. Please follow me. Why, yes, of course. She took the lead. As far as I know, there's a detailed map of the building in the servant's house. Momo said, but it barely helps. Izuku chuckled. How do you not get lost here? He asked. We don't use most of the house, she said. There are both servants and guards here. Personally, I don't go much anywhere except the backyard, the entrance, my room, and the dining room. And, by the way, there is a server room here. Oh, it's important. Uh-huh. She opened the door to the server room. Inside, there was one man in ordinary clothes, behind blocks of equipment and monitors. Hello, Ken-san, said Momo. This is Midoriya Izuku. He is our addition to the security. She introduced him. Ah, the HBSC, right? They asked. Izuku nodded. Yes, we were noted about you. Was I the last person to know about it? Momo thought. So what do you do in HBSC? Momo asked as they walked through the large backyard towards the servant's house. Well, me and Amiya-san are... Well, the two of us are our own unit. We are scouts mostly. So, information gathering is our primary objective. But we are efficient in weapons and tactics, so we participate in combat operations. And, well, I'm close to finishing the Quirk theory course. Well, I'm still kind of new in HBSC, so I have to learn under Amiya. She looked at him. Speaking of being new, I'm sorry for bringing it up, but you do look very young for that kind of job. I mean, you look young, but maybe that's just my first impression. How old are you? I'm 15. He said, me too. Really? Yes, she said with a surprised face. Oh, well, I guess there is a way for someone to get into your position at your age, but, why? Why what? Why did you decide to join HBSC? Well, I wanted to help people. That's all. Momo looked confused. Why not become a hero, then? He looked at her with a small smile. I can't. I'm quirkless. Oh, I'm terribly sorry I didn't dash. Izuku stopped her, expecting such a response. Please, no need, Yaoyorozu-san. He said, I understand your concern, but it's fine. I would lie if I said I never wanted to be a hero. But I moved on. I mean, look at me, 15 years old Hero Commission enforcer here to protect you. I think everything is working out just fine. Izuku's words managed to calm her down a bit, and she let out a light laugh. Yeah, I can't argue that. A comfortable silence followed. Momo stopped. Midoriya-san? Can I ask you a question? Yes, of course. No, sorry, it's not just a question. I want to ask you specifically because of your outside perspective. Oh, okay. And can I ask you to not talk about it with anyone else, please? Why would Dash? Please. Izuku studied her for a moment. She was frowning and clearly hesitating to speak right now. Of course, Yaoyorozu-san. Okay, asterisk, I want to become a professional hero. Oh. Izuku wasn't really surprised about it. A lot of people their age still have a wish to be professional heroes. They still have a chance to enter a hero school. I understand that it's not that surprising. I guess it's just... Izuku was silent, waiting for her to continue. I was kept hidden and protected for my whole life. I want to go out and, well, show myself, to stop hiding in my house, to stop being protected by everyone. I know it's not noble, like, for example, a wish to help people or something along that, or... She completely lost her courage at that moment. Oh, I understand, said Izuku. So what's the question? Question? Oh, sorry. Do you think it is a petty motivation? I mean, you work with heroes, so I thought maybe you could... Yaozen Midoriya said in much more serious tone. There's nothing wrong with becoming a hero for yourself. Really, as long as you do your work to save people and fight villains, I think there's no problem. Well, as long as they're doing everything within the law. If not, these heroes are becoming the job of HBSC, thought Midoriya, but decided against telling Yaoyorozu about it. Momo sighed in relief. Thanks for your opinion. You are still hesitating about it, don't you? Asked Midoriya. I mean, it seems like you are questioning the decision of becoming a professional hero. Momo visibly frowned. I guess, she said. They had stopped a long time ago on their way to the servant's house. Midoriya, feeling insecurity for Momo, stood in front of her. Yaoyorozu-san. He spoke. You know, my life had plenty of hard choices. While I cannot say that I was in your position, I can at least talk about what helped me during all the choices I made. Sai, it was the most important lesson from my father. He showed me the one thing that could help you as well. What is it, Midoriya-san? Persistence, stubbornness, a resolve to make a hard decision and to not step back. So, Yaoyorozu-san, you've made your choice, haven't you? Why did you make it? Do you want to live your life in secret? To be watched at every step and protected by everyone? No. Do you want to stop living like this? Yes. Do you want to stop the secrecy? Yes. Do you want to become a hero and to start a new part of your life? Yes. To help people around you, but more importantly, to help yourself? Yes. And what do you want to do to escape this life? I want to become a hero. I didn't hear you, Yaoyorozu-san. I said I wanted to become a hero. What? Sorry, I didn't hear you. Years of silence. Years of secrets. Years of lies. Life of a fragile maiden in need of protection. No more. She snapped. I want to become a hero, she shouted, and then started panting. You want to what? Shouted Ikaru Yaoyorozu from behind the pair. Izuku's and Momo's eyes widened in surprise. Here goes Momo's confession about her plans for the future. Father? Ikaru and Amiya were going to find Midoriya, so both of the operatives could go home to take spare clothes. Amiya was barely holding his laugh, while Ikaru took his face in his hands. Okay. Momo, honey, can we please talk about it? Amiya-san and Midoriya-kun were going back for a few hours. In that time, I want to talk to you. Izuku glanced in worry at Momo, but was surprised to find her looking at her father with a serious face. Of course, father. But please, give me another moment with Midoriya-san. Sure. Momo nodded for Izuku to follow her a bit further away. Then she leaned in and was about to whisper something to him. However, Midoriya stopped her. Wait, Amiya-san can read from lips from a huge distance. Oh. She stood so her back was to her father and Amiya, and then leaned again. Midoriya-san, could you do something for me? Listen, my quirk is... Midoriya's face showed his sudden surprise, but his eyes quickly turned into a calculated gaze that Amiya quickly recognized. It lasted for a few moments, and then Midoriya's face turned serious once more. He nodded. I think I can do it, said Midoriya, quietly, though his words were clear to Amiya. Momo was beaming, with a small, barely contained excited smile. It was the first time she told someone about her quirk in years. Momo and Midoriya separated, and Midoriya approached Amiya. Let's go get our things. Midoriya said. Yaoyorozu, Ikaru, and Momo were sitting at a table in the dining room. The daughter's face was serious, even if there were definitely emotions in it. That was quite a sudden statement for Ikaru Yaoyorozu. Sudden, but not that completely unexpected. As he said, he knew his daughter pretty well. He understood that his daughter didn't like what he was doing. However, according to Amiya, there was an incredible threat hanging over society, and his daughter could be in danger because of her quirk. She might not like it, but it was necessary. A way to protect her life and her quirk. So, a professional hero, he said, initiating a conversation. His daughter sighed. Yes, a professional hero. Honey, you are beautiful, smart, strong, and rich. You have every road open for you. Are you sure this is the way? Yes. I'm sorry, Father, but I really want to become a hero. I'm tired of the way my life is going right now. I understand your concern, really. So while I'm here, I'll accept everything you do for my protection. I won't continue this whining about secrets and everything, but on the condition that you will help me become a hero. Ikaru sighed. Before I give you my final word, one question. Of course, Father. What do you think of one of your bodyguards? Midoriya Izuku. Well, that was a strange question that caught Momo off guard. Well, it feels as if he knows what he is talking about, and he was quite pleasing to talk to. I think we will get along. Did you decide to become a hero before talking to him or after? Before. Why? Uh-huh. Okay, honey, you are a big girl now. You want to become a hero, you become a hero. But I, too, have a... No, it's not really a condition. If you want to become a hero, then keep close connection to Midoriya. He will become a big man in a few years. This is what Yoichiro Yaoyorozu wanted to say to his daughter, but he changed his mind. He will let them develop naturally. However, doesn't mean he wouldn't help them. Hero Commission expresses interest about expanding their influence onto hero schools. They, of course, did not phrase it like that. However, they wanted to place a few representatives into the schools. HBSC was the organization that gives out the hero licenses. Having representatives could help the students to get even better understanding of what they need to do to come closer to professionals. And UA allowed this system to be implemented as an experiment. It should start somewhere at the start of the next semester. And with pulling a few strings, maybe he could get someone specific there. Ikaru glanced at Momo. UA, that's my condition. Momo looked at him, but then let out a few laughs. That's hardly a condition, Father. Ikaru smiled. I guess. So, we need to get someone to train you. The test for recommended students is not exactly easy. Momo turned to him with surprise. Recommended students? Of course. What? You said you were going to agree with our ways of helping you. You have already agreed to this, my dear daughter. Momo sighed with a slight smile, but then she remembered something. Father, what is it with your interest in Midoriya-san? Ikaru thought for a few moments before looking into the window. The sun was still high, and the weather outside was quite good. But in his mind, he flew back in time, into a stormy night 5 years ago. The night All Might received his injury during the fight. Well, all for one, the night he lost his friend. Ikaru sighed. I knew his father. He said, surprising Momo. Maybe you remember him. You know, black hair, grim-looking. Always wore long black trench coats. Yaoyorozu concentrated, trying to remember someone like this. Maybe I remember. I'm not sure. Who was he? His name was Hisashi Midoriya. And he was that one person that comes into a fight of supervillains and superheroes with a gun and then returns with a victory. She couldn't really imagine the person that her father was talking about. She never knew him, but she could imagine Izuku in his place. And that small fantasy brought a small smile to her face. Mizurufu City exteriors. 4:02 p.m. Amiya's black car was running down the highway. He and Midoriya were stopped once because of the speed, but a quick show of his badge and a statement of, "We are on a mission," allowed Amiya to rush towards Mizurufu City. Of course, Amiya was only like that outside the city. It's not every day he could spread his wings, or wheels, in this case. So, started Amiya. How did introduction go? Izuku rubbed the back of his head. Quite good. Had a tough start, but everything worked out in the end. Good. Is she fine with us around? Midoriya turned to the man. Since when are you interested in other people's feelings? He asked. She will be less of a problem this way. Well, that was Amiya he knew. Yes, she is fine with us. Good. We are here. Amiya parked his car near Izuku's house. I'll be quick, said Midoriya as he left the car. Izuku quickly got into the house. His mother should be at work now, so he continued on his way without waiting for her to meet him. He ran up to his room and quickly got some clothes stuffed into his bag. However, before returning to Amiya, he went toward the basement. My quirk is creation. I can create anything, but I need to know the structure of the items I create. Right now, I can only create very basic items. Could you bring me something so I could try to create it? Yairozu's quirk was very versatile. Creating anything can give her an edge in almost every situation. The only things that were limiting her were her own knowledge, her mental state, creativity, and the body limit. So he decided to bring her his blueprints, as well as the items he knew the structure of. That meant a gas mask, his tracking device, a flashbang grenade, a pair just in case, blueprints of his pistol, and a rifle. While he did not expect Yairozu Eris to perfectly replicate his blueprints, he still wanted her to understand the way weaponry works. That should be enough. Wait, he noticed a note from HPSC he was asking to get, a formula of Midnight's gas. He wanted to try to ask for a replica of it in a lab, so he could use it as an ammunition, with Midnight's consent, of course. This could work. Hosa City Business District, 5:42 p.m. Now it was the turn of Amiya's house. He and Midoriya turned into the underground parking lot of the high-rise building where Amiya had an apartment. Usually Amiya prefers simplicity, but he lived alone. There was nothing to spend much money on, and he always had to be ready on the first call. So he could not get far from the city. And the view from the window here is beautiful. Midoriya had plenty of time to evaluate it while he was having lunch at his house. One view from a window was enough to interest the young operative about the possible purchase of something similar in the future. How expensive can such a house be? Izuku asked. I didn't count, Amiya said as he carefully packed up his things. He sighed. I worked for many years in the commission until I reached the age when I could buy my property. And when I got there, I just took it. And I haven't been counting my salary for a long time. Well, real estate is not falling in price, so I think it will be harder for me with this. Listen, Midoriya, Amiya asked, closing his bag. Maybe it's none of my business, of course, but live with your mom while you can. Then there may not be an opportunity. You just started working, and you have and will have a place to spend the night and eat. Don't think about the apartment yet. Midoriya frowned. If there was one man that could give such an advice, it would be Amiya. You finished? Amiya asked. Yeah. Amiya threw him the keys to the apartment. Wash your dishes. I'll wait for you downstairs. And then he left. Midoriya shrugged his shoulders. He's a junior here. Said and done. Yairozu residence, 9:20 p.m. The sun was already setting. After parking their car in the garage, Amiya and Midoriya walked toward the servant's house with their bags. It turns out that our only arsenal is pistols. The work of personal security is different. We can either walk threateningly next to the object of protection. This is in cases where a protected person is a fairly well-known person. In our case, we act more carefully. We blend in with the crowd. In both cases, the firearms must be kept hidden so that a potential enemy does not notice us in advance and does not steal our weapons in a surprise attack. Midoriya listened with a serious face, nodding his head from time to time. They both entered the building, meeting a couple of maids and a butler on their way. They stopped and looked around, not sure where to go. The butler approached them. Greetings. My name is Genji. You two are the two operatives from Hero Commission, right? He asked in a polite manner. Amiya crossed his arms. Yeah. Hello, Midoriya bowed. Please, follow me, young men. I'll show you your room. They both followed him. Their room was on the ground floor. The time for their potential arrival at the main building should be as minimal as possible. Breakfast is served at 7 a.m. Lunch is at 2 p.m. and dinner is at 7 p.m. Excuse me, Midoriya addressed the butler. HM? Yes, young man. Can we use the kitchen? He asked. Genji thought for a few moments. The work at Yairozu Estate is like a clock, and it was his job as a butler to make sure every part of it works. But maybe he could give in on such a small matter. Yes, I think it will be fine. Midoriya quickly turned to Amiya with a questioning look. Amiya glanced back at Midoriya, and then he closed his eyes with a sigh. Fine. Genji looked at them having a silent dialogue, and then decided to take his leave. Gentlemen, I will leave you now. Please, take note that lights are out at 11 p.m. If it's not an emergency, please, keep your voices down after that time. Noted, said Amiya with a nod. They got inside the room. It was quite spacious. On the right side, there was a door to the bathroom and a large closet that could be filled with all their clothes and still have some room left. On a wall near the entrance, there was a phone. On the left side, there was a long table with a pair of chairs and PCs. In the far part of the room, there was a pair of beds. They put the bags on their beds and started to take out the clothes to put them in the closet until a phone rang. Amiya approached it. Yes, Midoriya, I'll tell him. HM? Got it, he said and hung up. He turned to Izuku. It's the girl. She asked for you to come to her, and that we are going to mall tomorrow. Oh. Midoriya blinked a few times. He turned to the clock. It was getting late, but, well, she asked for him, so he should go. He changed into more casual clothing, picked his bag, and left. Midoriya sighed and knocked at the door. A muffled sound of footsteps quickly approached the door. It opened to reveal Momo with a small smile, which was contagious. Her hair was down, and she was wearing a fitting shirt. Ah, Midoriya-san, please come in. She looked excited. With a little hesitation, Midoriya complied. The room was very spacious. It was obviously much bigger than his and Amiya's room. He could notice a few musical instruments, a large bookshelf, filled with every kind of book, it seemed. On her large white table, there were a few pictures of different chemical formulas. So, hero stuff? He asked in a joking manner. Yeah, hero stuff. She answered in kind and brought him a chair. Midoriya put his bag on the floor. I think we should start with increasing your arsenal, and then we will work on limits of your quirk. Sorry, I didn't get a lot, but they're versatile. So, I guess they match your quirk in it. Talking about her quirk with someone was strangely exciting for the Yairozu heiress. For some reason, she just couldn't wipe that excited smile off her face. It felt as if her muscles were paralyzed in that position. Please, Midoriya-san, don't worry about it. It's just a start, isn't it? I hope so, Midoriya thought. So, I have a gas mask, a tracking device, a flashbang grenade. Please be careful with it. It's a real one. I'll disassemble it for you. And the tracking module. You know, the one that gives a signal. Momo's eyes widened at the number of things. That's not all, he said with a smirk. He decided against bringing up his blueprints of firearms. But the formula of Midnight's gas was soon on the table. So where should we start? Asked Momo. You want me to decide? Midoriya turned back to the items, and then to her. Well, you are the quirk expert here, aren't you? She asked with a smirk. She turned to the various items placed on her table. In her excitement, she tried to replicate one thing she could replicate the easiest, a formula, which was a formula of Midnight's gas. Noticing the purple gas coming out of Momo's skin, Midoriya quickly got the gas mask and put on Momo quite forcefully to make sure she won't breathe it in. She panicked when she noticed it was a gas and quickly stopped her quirk. Still covering his mouth with his arm, Midoriya, with a few coughs, quickly turned to the window and opened it. Momo was still in a slight panic. A few moments later, he tried to remove his hand, nodding to himself. He approached Momo and gently removed the gas mask. So you can make gases after all, he said with a nervous laugh. I am terribly sorry, Midoriya-san. Please, don't worry. Nothing bad happened. He tried to reassure her. Just be careful with gases. Your body doesn't have protection against fire or poison. You know what? Let's start with a gas mask, so you can actually use it. Momo made a deep breath. Okay, a gas mask it is. Momo started unbuttoning her shirt. WW, what are you doing, Yairozu-san? Asked Midoriya, and turned away with a blush. He should turn away, right? It's not an insult, right? I need to have more skin exposed to make something larger, answered Momo with surprising calmness despite the situation. This is going to be a long evening. Yavin District, 2:49 p.m. of the next day. So, what's with the mall? Asked Amiya. He, Midoriya, and young Yaoyorozu were in her personal chauffeur's car. The black car was small, but it could accommodate 4 people. Momo replied to Amiya, sitting in front. There are different types of clothes in shopping malls. In addition to the most common, there are various things made of materials with high resistance to high temperatures, fire, of increased durability, and very stretching clothes. I want to buy all this so that I can have an example of such materials for my own purposes. I see. Amiya nodded. Of course, he, being a senior officer, could order materials she needed, but he could not allow every civilian to spend resources from the manufactories. You can get used to it very quickly. Midoriya orders quite as it is. Yaoyorozu Eris made a right decision to notify him and Izuku about the mall beforehand. While Izuku was spending his evening with the girl, Amiya called a commission and asked for a detailed map of the building. When Midoriya returned, both of them examined it and made sure to memorize it. In addition to this, Midoriya brought a new addition to his personal pistol, ammunition with an extremely fast-acting sedative effect. Amiya looked at the driver. Yaoyorozu's personal chauffeur also turned out to be a trained bodyguard. For security reasons, last night Amiya turned to this man who lived in the same house for servants. His name was Suguru. His quirk was high speed, and he was licensed to use it. Well, if he wasn't, then Amiya and even Midoriya had the right to authorize the use of a quirk without consequences for the user. Like the 2 operatives, he was armed and had armor under his clothes. I found the car, said a man looking. The destination? Asked a voice on the other end of the phone. Don't know yet, but they are going to the business district. It's good that we at least found her. Send us the current whereabouts and link up with the group. Yavin District Mall, 2:58 p.m. The mall was relatively small, but it contained a significant number of branded stores to which Momo was heading. The only one who followed her was her personal chauffeur. Amiya and Midoriya were sitting on a bench, watching the store. Maybe we should go somewhere, too? Midoriya asked. It was not difficult for him to wait, but after half an hour of sitting in place, one particular place began to hurt. He wanted to get up and stretch his legs. No, don't move away, Amiya said with a serious look. For one reason or another, he was nervous. Something's wrong. Midoriya's eyes widened at these words. He looked around once more. What is it, Amiya-san? Older operatives' eyes were moving from side to side, as if searching for something. One of the people in the crowd made a sudden move. A man in a business suit, with a large case left cafeteria. Child's cry somewhere in the distance. I don't know, he said, and I don't like it. Midoriya noticed that Amiya's leg was bouncing. Then his eyes turned to Momo and her chauffeur, Suguru, leaving the shop. The man approached them, while Momo took a moment to get to the restroom close to them. Amiya pressed a button on his vest that was connected to a compact radio. It's Amiya, he said. Base is listening, Agent Amiya. The tan operative noticed a group of men leaving a particular clothing shop. His eyes narrowed. Request for additional attention on the Mall of Yavin Business District. In the second quarter, acknowledge. The enforcers group has been notified. We are watching it until further notice. Amiya-san, asked Suguru. Amiya was reaching for his gun, but gunshots in the air interrupted him. Midoriya and Suguru were about to get their firearms, but Amiya stopped them. Don't. We are in a crowd. Civilians are in the way. On your knees, shouted one of the men. He shot in the air again. Shouts of panic spread through the mall, and some people tried to run, but the exits were quickly sealed by armed men. I said on. Your knees, said a man, and enlarged in size a bit, ripping his suit. One of the armed men was now standing with a pistol next to the 3 bodyguards. Need a personal invitation, motherfuckers. Do it, said Amiya quietly. Midoriya's eyes were wide. He was now looking at the people with arms. Counting 10 of them, whispered Amiya. 2 on the exits. Where is she? Asked a calm man with an assault rifle, approaching the brute. She went there, the brute answered, and both of them went towards the girls' restroom. Midoriya was about to stand up with a snarl, but Amiya stopped him once again. "Wait! Don't you hear?" Midoriya was too angry to notice, but at the words of his mentor, he barely contained himself and focused. Police sirens. A lot of them. And since he notified the commission, a few men shot a few bullets in the air again. "All right, you boys and girls, get on your feet and follow us. You don't want to get hurt, right?" "Agent Amiya, this is base. Answer if you can. They are getting everyone in one place," whispered Amiya to Midoriya, ignoring the call. "He can't answer them right now. We will have a chance then." "How are you so damn calm?" Amiya-san asked snarling Midoriya in genuine interest. He barely could think right now. "Oh, I'm furious. But they are not here to kidnap or kill the girl. They would do it much earlier. They are sealed here and they know it. This is ransom." Those were the only good news. It seemed Ikuru's decision to hide his daughter's quirk was a decisive factor here. Still, they needed to work carefully. When the criminals get the idea they can't get money from the girl, they can get desperate. And that will be the most dangerous moment. The men led all the hostages into a shop on the opposite side of the restroom, where Momo was currently held. Midoriya, Amiya, and Suguru were in the second row from the entrance. "Good. No, 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 no." Momo heard the gunshots and, in panic, decided to hide. "What's going on?" she barely could think. And then she heard the door open. "Everyone, get out," said a calm voice. Maybe she should just comply. She heard a few women get out and decided to take her chance. She tried to leave, but a strong grip caught her shoulder and her heart sank. Her arms were trembling. A man with a cold, calm gaze looked at her. Behind him was a big man with a ripped suit. "Not you, princess," he said. "You are staying for now." Why her? "Let me have a few minutes with her." "Hero," said the brute with a grin. "I'll make sure she has no strength to rebel." The man, the leader, it seemed, looked at the brute angrily. "You and your asterisk, he started. "Get out of here." "Oh, come on, Hero. This will make the man desperate. We will get the money faster." "Get out." The brute rubbed the back of his head. Whatever. As the brute left, the now named Hero turned to Momo. "How is everything?" he asked in his radio. "Everything's fine, boss. We send Goro to get our message to the police. Her father should get the information soon." "Good." Hero nodded. Then he addressed the shaking Yaozu heiress. "We will not hurt you. Just sit quietly." He could see her nod. Momo was sitting leaning on a wall. Her head was down, and Hero couldn't see her eyes. And he couldn't see her eyes stop tearing, and her face getting serious. Momo bit her lip. If they wanted to get money for her, then they wouldn't kill her. It meant maybe she could try it. Maybe try it. Maybe. May freaking be. Resolved to make a hard decision, and to not step back. "I want to become a hero." She will fucking do it. This restroom was small. There was only one enemy. The conditions were perfect. "What's the police saying?" asked the leader. For some strange reason, he did not get a response. "Group? Answer me." The radio was not working. What the hell are these idiots do? He went straight to the door, turning away from Yaozu Momo. Because of that, he didn't notice pink smoke coming from the girl that was making a gas mask, holding her breath and pinching her nose to not let the gas inside. He didn't reach the door and fell on the floor. Amiya was sitting with Izuku, waiting for a good moment to start. The guard was standing outside the shop and turned to his radio. "Guys, how is it going?" he asked, but the radio gave no response. "Guys!" The man tried to hit the radio a few times to get it working. At the same time, Midoriya's and Amiya's eyes widened. "Did you miss me, Amiya?" There was a shout in Amiya and Midoriya's earphones. "Start on 3. "Oh! For fuck's sake," said smirking Amiya. "Midoriya, we start at the signal. But what about Yaozu-san? And is that..." "Two." "I don't know, and yes. A special kind of hero. The one with unique abilities that barely had a use in a direct combat, but was perfect for this kind of work. And add to this his hacking skills. technological hero, Technoblaze. He must have assessed the situation far better than Amiya, if he said that the operation begins now. It begins now. 1. Back in black, I hit the sack. Loudly shouted the speakers of the mall, turning on the music and startling the guards. The fronts of the shops were quickly shut down with metallic roller shutters, trapping a few criminals inside the shops. Midoriya, Suguru, to the other exit, he shouted. The crowd of people started shouting, but Suguru used his speed to push away the civilians and create space for the pair of operatives. Getting out of the shop, Midoriya quickly shot the man that was guarding the hostages with his sedative ammunition. The enforcers were already storming the entrance, wasting the criminals at the entrance. I authorized the use of deadly force, shouted Amiya. He aimed his pistol at the further end of the mall and shot another enemy in the head. Midoriya, worried about Momo, noticed purple smoke coming out of the restroom and felt relieved. The brute with ripped suit exited from the male's restroom and quickly got a good dosage of sedative from Midoriya. A criminal with spiky hair showed up with a hostage at his gunpoint. Drop your fucking guns, or I'll shoot her. Didn't you dash? He was interrupted as a fist approached him in high speed, breaking his jaw. He shot the pistol out of reflex, but Suguru has already pointed the pistol in the air. Amiya shot another criminal from the further end of the mall. He looked around to assess the situation once again. Besides some of the criminals banging at the metal shutters, the enemy was neutralized. Midoriya ran towards the girls' restroom. Hesitant to go inside the room because of all the smoke coming out of it, Midoriya knocked. Yaoyorozu-san, are you Dash? Before he finished the sentence, Momo ran out of room, still wearing her gas mask, dropped her wooden bow, and hugged Midoriya tightly. Izuku was about to drop on the floor, just from the sheer relief he felt at the moment. The incident at the mall shocked the entire Yaoyorozu family. Ichiro, having received a message from his contacts, took his fastest car and personally headed towards the specified mall. On his way, he almost hit a couple cars, but he didn't lose his head that much. However, Amiya's call that everything was fine visibly calmed him down. The threat was eliminated, and some of the criminals were brought in for questioning. Apparently, Technoblaze hacked cameras and phones, so he got the image of what was happening to the Yaoyorozu heiress. That was the reason he commanded the start of the operation. Amiya, Midoriya, Suguru, and, most importantly, his daughter, were unharmed and headed toward the house, accompanied by representatives of the police and the commission. Now Amiya, Ikaru, and Momo were back in the dining room. Midoriya was giving his testimony about the incident to the police and the commission. Your decision to hide your daughter's quirk played a key role here, Amiya said, standing at the window with his arms crossed. Asterisk's eye was the response from the head of the family. Ikaru turned to his daughter, and then back to Amiya. Maybe it didn't go the way I would have liked, but in the end, everything is fine, he said, rubbing his eyes. However, Dash, Amiya turned to him. I have made a decision. Ikaru continued. Momo, you want to be a hero, and I agreed to it. To think that if you hadn't practiced your quirk with Midoriya yesterday, who knows how things would have turned out. However, you agreed to all our attempt to protect you until you enter the hero school. Therefore, until the moment of admission, you will be at home under guard, and you will also study at home. I'll arrange with the school. But, Father Dash, no, Momo, I'm serious, he said with a frown. Then he turned to Amiya. That means that you two won't be needed. Please, don't think I just want to throw you away after today. You know that's not true. You two are like nephews to me, and you can visit. It's just, I needed you to protect her outside the house, not inside. You did your job, but from now on, this won't be needed. Amiya sighed. I understand. Please, make sure Izuku-kun understands as well. Ikaru pressed. I'll go pack my things. You won't stay for tea? Amiya chuckled. With all the captives we've been capturing last week, there will be a lot of work for the second recon squad quite soon. Oh, that makes sense. Ikaru nodded. I'll go then. We will walk you out. Let's go, honey. The head of the family addressed his dogged. Yes, father. Midoriya and Amiya were walking on their way out when an Ikaru and Momo approached them near the garage. Midoriya-kun, Momo wants to talk to you in private. Again, said Ikaru with a slight smile. Midoriya avoided their gazes. Of course. Please, come with me, Midoriya-san. They both hid behind the corner of the building. Kid works fast, commented Amiya. Yeah, absent-mindedly agreed Ikaru. Wait, what? I am sorry for today, Yaoyorozu-san. I dash. He was interrupted when she hugged him again. It felt nice and warm. Please, don't be, Midoriya-san. If it wasn't for you, who knows where I would be right now. But we went to Mall because you wanted to get things to train your quirk. Wasn't that because we started training your quirk? There was a small smile on her face. No, I would go there with or without you. But thanks to you, Amiya-san, Suguru-san, I'm fine. But if it was not for you, I wouldn't be able to pull my weight there. Thank you. Midoriya made a deep breath. Thank you, too, for being fine. Momo raised her eyebrow for a moment, but then she giggled. Oh, wait. Midoriya suddenly said. He has put his bag to the ground and was looking for something. Here it is, he said, and took out a blueprint. Is it? Those are blueprints for my pistol. This is for the future, so I won't forget about it next time I visit, he said with a smile. Please, take my number. You might have questions while you are working on it. Of course, she exclaimed and got her phone. After she got his number, he said, Please, don't try to make something this complex at once. Maybe try the fragments of it, but not the whole thing. As you say, Mr. Quirk expert. He smirked and then frowned. So I guess until next time? Momo's smile faltered a bit. Yes, until next time. Midoriya. They heard Amiya shouting, Are you going or not? Yeah, he shouted back. I need to run, he said to Momo. I figured. Sorry. Bye. And good night. Good night to you, too. As the young operative left, a sudden wave of boredom filled her, as if her energy source dissipated and now the life is going to return to normal. Momo clenched her fist and looked at the blueprints in her hand. No, now, she knows what she wants to do in her life. And, thanks to the young enforcer, she had the will to do it. Thank you, Midoriya-san 1 month before UA. HBSC Enforcer Facility, 9:21 a.m. True to Amiya's words, the amount of work inside the HBSC Enforcer Facility greatly increased. Starting with the operation to secure the laboratory in the forest, carried out a few months ago, the situation began to get more complicated. Something or someone forced underground criminal groups to act together. It's unclear if it's out of fear, profit, or perhaps some kind of sincere devotion, but crime seems to find a leader, find or return. During these 4 months, Izuku has not been able to visit the Yaoyorozu family, despite their generous offer. There was so much work and operations that the young operative did not have enough time to go to the bathroom without getting a message about next objective. He couldn't even meet his mom, much less everything else. In addition to this, the administration directly issued a decree that Midoriya to begin training in the field of PR, criminology, and psychology. It seems that while he is young, they decided to make some kind of monster out of him who understands all disciplines at some professional level. God, he was exhausted. Of course, he could write to both Momo and his mother, only that, with messages, he could reply as soon as he had the opportunity. There was neither time nor energy for calls. Momo was able to master the creation of his pistol, which was at least some reason for joy for him. A small smile appeared on Midoriya's face as he walked toward the briefing room. He is interested in her reaction when he brings her something new. However, a figure appeared from the corner, which he immediately recognized. And the figure also recognized Izuku. Tired eyes stared into emerald ones. Midoriya sighed and scratched his head. He himself chose a hero for this operation. Eraserhead. The hero looked at the operative from head to toe, noticing him wearing a black uniform, a rifle in his hands, and a serious look on the boy's face. He nodded. Midoriya, was it? The hero asked with a little doubt. Not only not in prison, but now also with issued weapons. It looks like a lot of things have changed during this time. Midoriya chuckled wearily and walked towards the briefing room. Aizawa followed. The Hero Commission decided to be practical, as you would put it. So, from the day you caught me, I'm a member of this organization. I wouldn't call handing out weapons to criminals a practicality. Aizawa replied. The heroes were also outlaws at one time. The very existence of the hero system in our time is an indicator that there is an exception to this rule. Whatever. Izuku was having none of it. No, not whatever. Eraserhead. Sorry for talking to you like that. But this is not the last time we will work together. I was the one who chose you for today's operation. Eraserhead glanced at the young operative for a moment, but said nothing. Midoriya continued, I don't want prejudice to interfere with the work between you and me. It will only hurt both of us. Aizawa pondered over the words of the young man, walking next to him. Obviously, in 10 months, any problems in Midoriya's character would have already manifested themselves. By the way, Eraserhead, Midoriya started again. What do you think about the entrance exams to UA? The question was quite unexpected, but people who knew Aizawa also knew that he was a teacher at the most prestigious hero school. Aizawa replied without a second thought. Impractical, he said, spends too many resources, and does not allow many students to open up. Midoriya looked at Aizawa with a raised eyebrow. Is it the exam that prevents people from opening up? It seems that Aizawa doesn't even realize how many Midoriya and Amiya caught as students who were excluded from hero courses in the first days of training. Nevertheless, there is some truth in this. The practical part of the exam of battles has led to the fact that society is oversaturated with heroes with some bright quirks aimed only at the strength of the user. Midoriya, as one of the main consultants who determined the heroes on operations, was somewhat annoyed by this. Heroes with quirks like Technoblaze, Eraserhead, or even Sir Nightai were rare, and the problem here is not the rarity of quirks, but the difficulty of enrolling in a hero course. But it was this kind of heroes that were in the prize for commission. It's good that Momo will get to the exam for recommended students. There was a door in front of them, behind which a group of operatives was waiting for them. Briefing room. Mizuta Business District. 12:40 p.m. The group of villains disappeared around the corner. Group 1, we are closing them. The second group will meet at the other end. Midoriya shouted as he reloaded, careful with the fire quirk. Keep the shields further from the body to avoid burns. The operatives raised their shields and ran toward the enemy in the alley. Amiya-sen, they went to 2nd Street. Set Izuku into the walkie-talkie. Got it. We're closing them. Let's go, let's go. Midoriya shouted to the squad. A group of operatives ran around the corner. However, instead of meeting an opponent trapped between two groups, they were met by a closing purple portal. Not again. Set aside, Midoriya said, and walked through the squad forward. Amiya and Aizawa repeated the same thing from the other end of the alley, and they met at the place of the closed portal. It wasn't a quirk of one of them. Said Aizawa, I erased them all. We know Amiya side. This is not the first time this has happened. Someone is covering for them. The work is becoming problematic, Midoriya added. We need to find a villain with this teleporting quirk and fast. Otherwise, our job will just get stuck. Amiya crossed his arms with a sigh. The operation has failed. We're going back. HBSC Enforcer Facility, 2:45 p.m. Midoriya and Amiya returned to their room, hoping to wash, eat, and go to bed. It had been an unpleasant day, and they had several more suspects in line to be followed. In addition to this, one of the extremely dangerous killers was spotted by cameras in Hosu. An order for elimination has been received. Midoriya rubbed the sleep out of his eyes. He seriously thought of asking to take a vacation, but something told him that now it would be problematic. People are more than needed now, and a face like Izuku is valuable on the battlefield. The use of operatives in each such operation can lead to a sharp increase in the costs of the organization's fighters. We should use more heroes, Midoriya thought. His attention was distracted by the ringing phone. Approaching it, young enforcer answered. This is Midoriya. Ah, Midoriya. The easily recognizable voice of the commission's vice president, Yakumura, sounded on the other end. "It's you I need. Come up to my office. There's a serious conversation." Midoriya looked at the phone with some doubt, then asked, "I'm sorry. After today's operation, I'm pretty exhausted. I don't know how much I can think clearly now and dash." "I understand," Mara said, holding back a yawn. "I'll ask for coffee for us." Midoriya chuckled. "Thank you, sir. HBSC headquarters." 2:46 p.m. Yakumura hung up. In front of him, on a comfortable high chair, there was an animal, which one he found difficult to name, but he knew for sure that it was a director of UA, Nizu. He sipped his tea and turned back to the vice president of the commission. "Do you want to choose a representative from among the enforcers?" he asked with genuine interest. Midoriya graduated from courses on the theory of quirks, basic courses in psychology and PR. He's a fast learner. He has been choosing heroes for our operation for about 5 months now. He has risen in rank, and now he can be given a squad to command during operations, and his presence on the battlefield has saved the lives of our boys more than once. The percentage of success of the operations in which he participated is also quite high. At least, it was so before the appearance of the teleporting villain. Nizu's eyes widened a bit. "It looks like he's quite a valuable employee. But why did you decide to assign him to us?" "No smoke and mirrors, please." Mara closed his eyes and leaned back in his chair. "The guy understands heroes," said the vice president. "It's surprisingly hard nowadays. He has been a fan of them since childhood, and has been working with them side by side for almost a year. And this is not taking into account the training that he has been doing at home throughout his life. His work will be regulated by us. So in essence, he will only be a person transmitting information from us. But this is the only part of the work that anyone can handle. The most important thing is to work with the students, and we are sure that Midoriya will be able to find a common language with them." There was a knock on the door. "Enter." A woman came into the room and brought a tray with 2 cups of coffee. Mara immediately picked up his and took a sip, feeling life returning to him. When she came out, he continued, "Our commission regulates the issuance of heroic licenses in the country. When we said that this program is aimed at helping students, it was true. Not everyone gets recognition during their studies or after graduation. Our goal is to increase the employment of such heroes. That's why we'll send Agent Midoriya to you. He will be a bridge between HBSC and young heroes. His very presence will already help to provide jobs for young heroes, even if they remain unnoticed by the public. In addition to this, his task will be to identify potential members for direct work in the commission." Another knock on the door. Enter. A young man with green hair and a black combat uniform came into the office. "Ah, Midoriya, here you are," said Mara. "It looks like you haven't had a good rest yet. You haven't even changed your clothes." "Sorry about that. Sit down. Here's your coffee." Midoriya noticed an animal sitting in a chair. "It's Nizu, the director of UA. Did I come too early?" he thought. "Is this Midoriya?" Nizu thought, very young. Maybe even too young. However, this program was just an experiment. It's worth a try. "Hello, Mara-san. Did you want to see me?" asked the young operative. He sat down at the indicated place and picked up a cup of coffee. "Yes, Midoriya. This is Nizu, the director of UA, as you probably already know," said the vice president. Midoriya nodded. "Glad to meet you, young Midoriya. Your administration has managed to tell a lot about you." Izuku, after a sip of coffee, smiled and scratched his head. "Likewise, sir. About the purpose of your visit, Midoriya." Mara started with a serious face. He straightened up in his chair. "You are temporarily released from combat operations. The commission has decided to designate you as our official in the UA. Midoriya's face expressed surprise. "But you won't go against the order." He nodded. "What are my obligations?" he asked. He agreed quickly, Nizu noted. "The list is quite extensive. I'll send it to you by email," Mara said. "The main task is the contact between the students and the Heroic Commission. Of course, we trust teachers to teach children how to use their quirks, but your task will be to issue recommendations to students for obtaining a hero license." Also, we give you the power to make recommendations to school itself, with the approval of the commission, in general, providing support to teachers and students within the framework that HBSC can provide. Midoriya leaned back in his chair. Too much information. Too much. Izuku still couldn't fully comprehend the amount of responsibilities that had fallen on him. He was told only the main task. It's scary to think how many smaller tasks there are. Nevertheless, it will do for a vacation. Give recommendations to the school, you say? Izuku asked again. Yes. Midoriya sighed and turned to Nizu. I have one. Appeared in my head after talking to Eraserhead. Nizu crossed his arms with a small smile. Our school has proven its effectiveness in time, young Midoriya. But if you have something to say, I will listen to you and think about the offer. One spot. Izuku said. Allocate one spot in each class for students personally selected by the commission. Or, considering that I am now a representative of the HBSC, chosen by me, this is a rather big demand. One place in each class, of course. May not sound like a lot, but this is 2 people out of 36 students accepted by the general exam. Quite a lot in percentage terms. The very fact of such a choice, not even by recommendations, but by order of another organization, can create problems and at least will force a significant number of documents to be rewritten and contracts to be reissued. Nevertheless, Nizu felt that such a statement did not come out of nowhere. That's a pretty strong demand, young. No, I'm sorry, Agent Midoriya. Can you explain in more detail the reasons for such a recommendation? Izuku took a sip of coffee and nodded. Of course. The main problem of the school, in its current form, is the practical exam. It is designed exclusively for people with combat quirks, weeding out a significant number of potentially strong heroes. For example, your teacher, Eraserhead, would not be able to pass it at the age of applicants. Nizu nodded and waved his hand, offering to continue. This has led to the fact that now our society is oversaturated with combat quirks. Note that heroes with non-combat quirks are already quite old. Eraserhead or Sir Nightai, for example. In the current state, our educational system does not allow people with non-combat quirks to break through. Such heroes will simply run out. I understand that changing the practical exam is necessary in the long term, and it takes months of work, if not years. But it is already possible to start now. Without changing the practical part, we can focus on choosing 2 students based on their quirks, not their combat prowess. Nizu's smile did not subside as he listened to the young operative. No, representative. His points are valid. We need to have more heroes for underground work, and who, if not the Hero Commission, knows what they might need in the future. But I'm interested in your offer, Nizu said. We still have 2 weeks before the entrance exam, which means that this offer can still come into force this semester. However, I have 2 conditions. Midoriya rubbed his eyes again, but nodded. God, it's only 3 in the afternoon. Don't you dare falling asleep in front of your superiors. I'm listening to you, Mr. Director. The choice of students will be made only among those whose result on the theoretical exam will be higher than 85%. Next, the final selection of the students will be agreed with me. Midoriya nodded. It sounds reasonable. So, we've come to an agreement. Yes, but I'll warn you. Young talents are very seriously preparing for admission to UA, so expect that you'll have to consider quite a lot of options. Midoriya smiled. Of course. When Midoriya went to pack his things to go home, Nizu turned to the vice president, who almost fell asleep in his chair. I can understand why you decided to send him to us. He definitely knows what he's talking about. I think we'll work together. I'm glad to hear that. I am sure that in the long term, this will benefit both us and society as a whole. If everything goes well, then other hero schools will follow your example. HBSC Enforcer Facility, 3:03 p.m. Amiya came out of the shower, wiping his wet hair, and noticed Midoriya packing up. Where are you going? He asked. Midoriya turned to him. I am temporarily free from combat operations, he said. Amiya's face showed almost no surprise. I was appointed a representative of the commission in the UA. So, I'm going home for now. I'll stop by the UA, look around, integrate into the security system, and talk with the teachers. There's an entrance exam in 2 weeks, and I'll need to attend. But I'll stop by Yairozu first. I want to expand her arsenal a bit further. What are they thinking about upstairs? Amiya thought aloud. Every operative matters right now. Exactly what I was thinking. Midoriya said, straightening up, we have a problem with the staff. The difference needs to be leveled with heroes, but there are fewer and fewer heroes with quirks suitable for us. This problem will be my main job. Amiya sighed. For how long? The program is experimental. It will depend on the effectiveness of my work. Then the longer the better. Yeah. Midoriya turned to Amiya with a smile. Don't miss me too much. Amiya-san. Midoriya headed for the shower. Highway, 6:03 p.m. After receiving all the necessary documentation, the young representative left the commission building. Right now, Izuku was riding in a taxi on the highway towards the Yairozu residence. All in all, I will arrive the day after tomorrow. Izuku said. Did something happen at work, Izuku? His mother asked on the other end. Midoriya sighed and rubbed his eyes. Yes, I was temporarily transferred to another department. So, I won't be participating in combat operations for the near future. He heard a relieved sigh on the other end. Thank God. Anyway, I'll be waiting for you then. Call me when you're going back. I'll make katsudon for you. Midoriya chuckled tiredly. I'm looking forward to it. He hung up, seeing the trees flashing by the window. He almost fell asleep, but the coffee was still holding. This time he will bring her practically nothing new. First aid kit, bandages, painkillers, cooling gel with a specific chemical formula. It's a little early for explosives. However, the most important thing now is to determine the capabilities of the quirk to use it in battle. He had an idea. Yairozu residence exteriors. 6:20 p.m. It's me? Midoriya said with a small smile. He waved at the camera above the gate. He warned about his visit in advance, so there should be no problems at the entrance. Ah, Midoriya-san. The familiar voice of a young girl was heard. Come in. Yairozu residence main hall. 6:23 p.m. A couple of minutes later, Midoriya found himself in the main hall. As Ikaru-san said, it really could be windy here. Yairozu greeted him. You finally found time for a visit, she said with a smile. Midoriya scratched his head and smiled. I hope she's just glad to see me, and not because I help her with her quirk, he thought. Sorry, there was a lot of work in Dash. Please, wait a moment, Midoriya-san. She interrupted with sudden urgency. She came close to him and almost touched his face. Midoriya-san, what is this? She was pointing at a small scar under his eye. That one villain could create blades from his arms. Almost got my eye because of it. She ran her finger along it absent-mindedly. Midoriya was not sure how to react. Momo quickly realized what she was doing and created some distance. Ahem, let's go. My father is at work now. He won't be home until late. She led him inside. Would you like some tea? Midoriya followed her. Yes, it would be nice. In the dining room or in my room? She asked. Let's go to your room. I didn't bring much today, so we can finish everything with a glass of tea. Okay, but we'll have to go into the kitchen anyway. I'm learning to be independent. I can't always ask the maids for tea. Now I am quite confident in the speed of production. The problem now is to apply my quirk in combat. However, regarding what was before, it's like heaven and earth. Midoriya examined all the things Momo created with her quirk. In a single copy, she kept them in her room. He took a sip of tea. This is what I want to correct with our next training. We will use only the simplest possible constructions, but in different conditions. But that's for later. In the meantime, he took out a first aid kit from his bag and opened it. There are military bandages, painkillers, and cooling gel. Extremely important tools in any field hospital that appear extremely quickly in emergency situations. They will definitely not be useless. Momo picked up the papers and looked at Midoriya. Their structure is quite intricate. In addition to this, painkillers need to be clearly maintained in dosage. Otherwise, I can harm the one who uses them. Midoriya nodded and leaned on the table. Medicine and electronics are the quintessence of the precision of your quirk. Therefore, full-fledged application will require practice. However, when you create something, you know exactly what is being formed and how. You'll notice the mistake. She nodded. Midoriya watched how quickly the bandages were given to her. After a couple of minutes of trying, she managed to make it strong enough. He noticed how she created some water and tested it to see how it will absorb the liquid. The smile and a certain sense of pride on her face did not pass by his eyes. The gel, on the contrary, had a rather complex structure. The main problem was the preservation. Preservation? Ahem. Where was he? The preservation of the dosage in the sequence of addition of elements in the process of creation. In addition to this, it is difficult to remember their chemical structure. But she's pretty smart. She'll be able to memorize it. Thump, Midoriya-san. Momo asked, "The formula's a bit hard here, but I think I did it." Midoriya-san. She turned in his direction, and her eyes widened. The young operative fell asleep. Poor thing, she thought. Momo smiled a little. It looks like he's worked so hard that he was ready to fall asleep just anywhere. She couldn't help but look at him. He looked so vulnerable, defenseless. A strong contrast was created with usually confident operative. The last time she'd seen him like this was when he tried to apologize to her after she'd been captured. But back then an aura of depression and fear of rejection emanated from him. Right now he exuded peace. The mere sight of him lying in the sun on her desk made her heart beat faster. She got up quietly, moved away, and created a blanket to cover him. Quietly approaching him, she covered him and whispered softly, "You must learn to rest, Midoriya-san." Izuku slowly opened his eyes and rapidly stood up, not recognizing the place. Where was... Oh no, he fell asleep right at the table. It looks like he underestimated the extent of his fatigue. Greatly underestimated. Oh sure, I hope she's not mad at me, he thought. He looked for his watch. Stop. What time is it? 2 in the afternoon? Damn it. He wanted to dedicate it to training with Yaoyorozu. So, he urgently needed to find a guest room prepared for him, in which he left his things. Wash up and find her. His stomach rumbled. It wouldn't hurt to eat too. 10 minutes later, he found himself walking into the dining room, only to find himself face to face with the head of the family, Yaoyorozu Ikaru. Ah, Midoriya-kun, here you are. Momo told me you were here. Look, it's only the second meeting, and you're already sleeping in my daughter's room. Please, not so fast, young man. Only after at least 50 dates and a wedding. Izuku coughed and turned away with redness on his face, scratching his head. Please, don't joke like that, Yaoyorozu-san, said Midoriya. Eyes of the head of the family widened for a moment. Please, don't joke like that, Yaoyorozu-san, said Amiya. Our relationship is exclusively professional. Yep, they are related, he joked in his head. Listen, Midoriya-kun, we didn't have a chance to really talk last time, did we? Come on, I'll make you some tea. Is there something specific you want to talk about, Yaoyorozu-san? Midoriya asked at the table. Ichiro was standing at the counter and making tea. Yes, it is. Tell me, Midoriya-kun, do you know why I chose your squad specifically to protect my daughter? Izuku pondered. I remember Amiya-san suggesting that you might have known my father. Well, at least it was one of his 2 guesses. Ikaru smiled slightly and walked over to the table with mugs of tea. I think I already know his second guess, he said. Yeah, Izuku supported. And yet, he was right. Ikaru suddenly declared. So after all, he is a Fae. I knew your father. Never mind. Wait, what? You knew my father? That's exactly what I said. A lot of thoughts flew through Midoriya's head. So many questions appeared at the moment the realization kicked in. He only knew his father as just that, a father. But 9 months ago, he realized that he did not know Hisashi Midoriya, the head of the HBSC military. Moreover, he was a friend to me. I hired you and Amiya because I wanted to give you a chance to prove yourself without the influence of your father. He's quite a famous person in certain circles, so I didn't want you to live forever in the shadow of his big name. However, you are unlikely to get rid of his influence completely. In any case, you are his son. You inherited part of his reputation and his connections from him. That's why you're an agent of the Commission. That's why you're sitting here right now, next to me, and that's what gave rise to my interest in you and in your future. But don't think that the only thing I'm interested in you is your relationship with Hisashi. This relationship marked only the beginning of my interest in your career. Your appointment as a representative of the Commission in the UA is just an indicator that your name is starting to gain weight. No amount of training with weapons and combat tactics would have given you this position. Midoriya listened quietly with interest. Wait, Izuku suddenly declared, but I didn't tell you or your daughter that I was appointed a representative of the Commission. I have my sources. Ikaru quickly waved away. You have a great future, Izuku, and I want to help you get to it. Therefore, if you need anything, contact me. Midoriya closed his eyes. A certain sense of peace filled him. Thank you, Yairo-san. Ikaru smiled after taking a sip of tea. Glad to help. So, Midoriya-kun, do you have any questions? Midoriya turned away and pondered, not sure what he was interested in right now. No, there is something. He probably won't get rid of his father's shadow. The expectations of people created solely because of his last name, he most likely will not justify. Izuku is not his father, but maybe he can get closer to his effectiveness. Can you tell me about him? What was he like as an operative? Ikaru looked at Midoriya. Are you sure? You are now temporarily suspended from combat operations. Is it worth asking this question now? Midoriya insisted. The only other thing I can ask is what kind of friend he was. But I think it won't be far from how I knew him as a father. Therefore, the effectiveness of knowledge is now in the first place for me. I absolutely do not know Hisashi Midoriya, the leader of HBSC enforcers. Ikaru sighed. This is the part he didn't want to touch. A tall man walked inside the building. He was wearing a long black trench coat that hid his armored vest. His gaze was as cold as a grave. Suddenly, he pulled out a submachine gun and shot the guards at the entrance. A siren went off in the building. Clear the building. All people loyal to the government have already evacuated. He was brutal, efficient, at work. He was not sticking to morals. At the time, we were fighting the leftovers of Destro's legacy, but I still think he could go overboard. It felt as if he had, a switch. A switch? Yes. Hisashi, this is going too far. Shouted Ikaru. Listen, I still need someone to work here. Hisashi Midoriya looked at him with a cigarette in his mouth. Ikaru, began Hisashi with a sad look on his face. Then, however, his face lost all the emotions. If these people continue to work, the movement of Quirk supremacists will not stop. They need to be eradicated at root, or we will be dealing with them for our whole life. They still have people in the media that doesn't cover their crimes. Ikaru was having none of it. No, if we go too hard on them, they will be too scared and will go into hiding. We must make the thought of giving up to us appealing, not scary. I was even a bit scared of it. He could be somewhat grim or even a bit happy about something, but in the next moment he's just nothing, as if a machine got a human skin. He was not always like that, though. After you were born, those moments became rare. Well, I can't say a lot beside that. Your courses about history of operations should have covered most of the tactics and strategy he used. Midoriya's gaze dropped. He wasn't sure if he could be the same. However, as Amiya had once told him, times were different. Such cruelty is not required at this time. I have one more question. Midoriya's gaze became almost cold, trying to restrain emotions and trepidation from the upcoming question. How did he die? Ikaru's eyes widened. It was more than 5 years ago. The rumble of blows from two monstrously strong sworn enemies could be heard in the distance. The small town where the combat group was located was almost destroyed. Those were the consequences of the fight between All Might and All for One. Hisashi Midoriya and his battle group were in the town. An amazing feature of this settlement was that most of its inhabitants were accomplices of the king of the criminal underworld. A wave of enemies launched an attack from the right. Fire, Hisashi commanded. During the All Might's huge battle 5 years ago, but I don't remember anything like that. Izuka said, this battle was hidden in every possible way. Ikaru explained, in this battle, he received his most serious injury. Hero Commission would not allow anything to damage the image of the symbol of peace. Naitai, evacuate, shouted Hisashi. I am his sidekick, shouted Mirai back. He did not follow my warnings. This is the only thing I can do to support him. Mirai, for God's dash, a bullet in the arm interrupted him. Captain, shouted his group. Naitai pushed him to the ground, and the group covered them, firing back at the villains. After the enemy was eliminated, Hisashi examined his injury. It hurt, goddammit. A set of explosions happened in a distance. The medic of his group approached him. Fuck. Hisashi threw away his assault rifle. He could not use it now. Hold on, Captain, said the medic. The bullet is still inside. We need to get you out of here. No, we must continue. I still can use one of my hands. Replied Hisashi, getting his pistol. No, Captain, if you continue, you can lose your hand. Whatever, sighed Hisashi. Standing up, he was sweating and panting, but stood up nonetheless. I'll order replacement for it, then. He turned to Sir Night-Eye. Evacuate. Hisashi, I'm not get down. A large projectile was coming in and fast. When it landed, a large blast wave destroyed the buildings, forming the crater. From it, panting, stood up All Might and looked around with wide eyes, and they widened even further. He saw that his landing destroyed the houses around, and he could see still barely alive operatives that came with him to the town. Rage filled him, and he turned to the sky, where his enemy was waiting for him with a bloody smile and a destroyed eye. All for one, he shouted and went back to the sky, back to the Night-Eye. He was barely getting on his knees with coughs. When he found his glasses, his vision cleared and Hisashi was leaning on a wall, with a metal pipe sticking out of his chest. The captain barely looked around and saw his group under the rubble. The medic impacted the same wall as Hisashi, but at a wrong angle. He was already dead. Hisashi! Shouted Mirai. The man in question coughed blood. He looked at Night-Eye, and then light disappeared from his eyes. Just like that? Quiet till he asked Midoriya. He moved on from his father's death. It was long time ago. Still, here in the conditions of his demise, did a good job at trying to reopen healed wounds. Not every person gets a heroic death, said Ikaru solemnly, raised by a soldier. Live like a soldier. Die like a soldier. Thank you, suddenly said Midoriya. His knuckles were white from the pressure. Now I feel like I understand him a bit better. He finished his tea in one go, exhaled deeply, and turned to Ikaru with a serious face. One of the tasks of the recon squad is the information gathering. I, as a quirkless person, cannot fight anything without proper knowledge. So, please, tell me everything you can about that all for 1 inch. Ikaru stood up. This is going to take some time. I'll make us more tea. Midoriya was listening, amazed and terrified at the same time. Such a villain definitely was something that could unite the villains. However, his talk with Ikaru was interrupted when one covered in sweat, Yairosa Momo, entered the dining room. She was wearing her sportswear that, as Izuka noted, showed a lot of her skin. Is that the thing people call sports bra? Midoriya said, you promised me training, she said, getting to the water in a cabinet. Yes. Sorry, he said, with his eyes following her and resisted a shudder. He stood up and turned to exit, leaving quickly. I'll get my other clothes. Now, create a small round projectile, but as fast as you can, said Midoriya. Okay. Momo replied and raised her hand in front of her. In a moment, a small metallic ball quickly appeared in her hand and flew away a bit, at a disappointingly small distance. Midoriya sighed. I guess there goes my plan for projectiles, he said. Sorry. No. He turned to Momo. Why are you apologizing? You did not choose the way your quirk behaves. But, Still, I thought that using projectiles could be the best way for me to fight. It could be, Midoriya nodded. However, it is not the only way. Well, of course it's not the only way. I still can make tools to fight. No, Momo-san, I think you have one more option. Momo's eyes widened. What option? This one will require flexibility. And a lot of concentration. But I think UA will help you with that. All we need is to start. To be honest, for now, this is the last thing I can think of when it comes to you in a fight. Then let's try it out, Midoriya-san. Okay, start making a wooden stick from your palm. Make it around 6 to 7 inches fast, and then slow down. She nodded. Okay, when she made the stick, she slowed down at the required length. Now hit me. What? Hit me while you are making the stick. You sure dash. Yes, do it. She struck him at his arm with the stick. It was a bit uneasy. She was used to having the bow in her arms, not sticking out of her palm. Momo's eyes widened. So that's your plan, Midoriya-san, she exclaimed as she stopped making the stick, and it fell to the floor. Yes, this can be both your defense and your offense. Momo tried creating a steel blade out of her arm and made a few swings while it was still intact. I can stop an enemy in attack at the same time. She couldn't stop herself from hugging him again. It lasted a moment. Geez, Momo, you'll scare him, she thought. She couldn't understand why she was so clingy when Midoriya was around. Was it because he was the first person to spend so much time with her after years of closed life? Maybe, but she hoped it was not the case. Yaoyorozu-san began Midoriya with a slight blush on his face. A tough agent was trying not to look at her, but was failing. Cute. Before, I was sure that you would pass the exam. But now, I know it, I guess, since we didn't work on projectiles, I'll have to leave earlier. I have a new mission, so the faster I return, the better. Momo frowned. Oh, but Midoriya said with a bright smile. His expression was emitting smugness and a little excitement. We will see each other sooner than you think. His smile was contagious. Damn it, Momo, why is all it takes to get you beaming is seeing him smiling? And yet, she couldn't stop. As you say, Midoriya-san. Midoriya ran a hand through his hair, and Momo's eyes followed his arm. I'll go get my things. I haven't seen my mother for months as well. She nodded, but stayed to continue to work on the new revelation about her quirk. She would wait for him, as much as it took. But hopefully she won't wait for long, because every time he comes, Momo feels more and more alive. UA, 2 weeks before the start of the semester, a group of teachers was sitting in chairs and looking at the monitors, examining the students that were participating in the practical exam. Behind them, standing in a fancy suit, leaned on a wall with his arms crossed, stood Midoriya. He had already noticed a couple of familiar faces. As he expected, they were doing quite well. Mina Ishido and Kirishima Aijiro teamed up, and together they dealt with the enemies quickly enough. But Kugu Katsuki destroyed all the robots in his path. However, despite his quirk, he did extremely little damage to the surrounding buildings. He had an incredible level of control over his quirk. Worth noting, additional points from the HBSC representative. However, one guy caught Midoriya's attention. He was running around the exam venue and was extremely lost. Izuku went to the Nizu and pointed at him on the screen. Who is he? The young representative asked. This one. Nizu asked. Midoriya nodded. Nizu turned to look at Midoriya. It looks like your candidate, Nizu said. He rummaged through the documents on the table, distracting the other teachers, and handed the papers to Midoriya. Name, Hitoshi Shinso. Quirk, brainwash. Then we are waiting for the results of the written exam. Midoriya said, such a quirk should not be missed. 1 week before the start of the semester. Hitoshi Shinso sighed with some trepidation. He already knew that he had failed. His written exam should be enough to enroll in the general course. But this is not what he wanted in life. He wanted to show all his bullies one thing. He could become a hero despite all their mockery. He could, until the practical exam happened. Anger and a sense of injustice filled his heart. However, even so, he will try to break into the hero course. UA thankfully allows it. He looked at the letter from UA again. Having overcome the desire to tear it to pieces, he opened it. Suddenly, a hologram appeared from it, scaring him. The letter fell on the table. Greetings, young Shinso. Greeted, All Might of all people. Shinso's eyes widened. And let me congratulate you on entering the hero course. The teenager's eyes widened even further. I passed. UA entrance ceremony. Midoriya exhaled deeply and entered the meeting room behind the curtains. Vlad, King, Midnight, President Mike nodded at him, as well as other UA staff. Midoriya knew it was about time for him to enter the scene. Aizawa was nowhere in sight. Wasn't his class supposed to be here, with other classes at the ceremony? And welcome to UA. Shouted All Might at the microphone. Now, what's the school motto? Plus dash, he began. Ultra. Finished the crowd of excited students. All Might was smiling broadly as always. I'll see you on the lessons, he said, leaving the scene and waving to crowd. Before the man left the meeting room, a relatively small hand caught his arm. It was young representative from the HPSC. All Might, sir, could you go to my office, please? I wish to talk to you on behalf of the Hero Commission. Number 1 hero looked at the boy for a few moments, and then nodded. I'll wait for you there. Nizu approached his smaller microphone. And now, a word to the last person today, the representative of Hero Commission, Midoriya Izuku. Midoriya exhaled again. Pro heroes looked at him and nodded in support, but it barely helped. But Izuku's eyes steeled. He memorized his speech. He will not fail. The applause was much smaller than when All Might came onto the stage, but he didn't care, though he noticed some people muttering, looking at him. He approached the microphone. Hello, my name is Midoriya Izuku, and I am the representative of Hero Commission. Just as the case with All Might, my work will mostly affect the hero courses from 1st to 3rd years. Please, do not think about how young I look. I'm a certified quirk specialist and an experienced enforcer. I am one of the people that choose the heroes for special operations. My task is giving you dash. Midoriya looked at the rows of hero course students. The row with 1A was empty. Damn it, Aizawa. Personal recommendations for you to get your hero licenses. During my work with the Hero Commission, I work with many heroes, both famous and underground ones. Just as your teachers, I understand who and what is a hero, but my job goes beyond working with your quirks. I have an office. Number is 255. If you want to talk about your future hero licenses, advice on the best person for you to intern with, or anything hero-related, you can come to me. I will help you. I'll make sure all of you have a job by the time you finish your courses. Midoriya sighed. Thank you for your attention. And welcome to your Hero Academia. Did he say Midoriya? Mirio Togata asked quietly to himself, standing with the rest of the students at the opening ceremony. I remember Sir Nightai talking about someone with that name. UA main facility. 8:50 a.m. Yagi Tashinori, better known as All Might, turned off the quirk and looked around in Office 255. It was quite cozy here. There was a rather strong contrast with the usual teacher's room. The teacher's room is designed for a large number of people. Here, on the other hand, was only one table with a chair, a sofa, a couple of shelves with documents about students, and 2 large windows to the outside. It would really be quite pleasant to work in such an office. All Might preferred working in the field to office gatherings. However, during the time he was a hero, it's hard not to start appreciating the work of people like the young representative. His name was Izuku, wasn't it? Izuku Midoriya. He knew one Midoriya in the past. Maybe they are some kind of relatives? He's pretty young, too. It's amazing how such a young man could not just become a part of HBSC, but also become an official representative in the UA. All Might saw some movement in the window. Is someone already training? It's 1A. All Might heard footsteps outside the door and immediately got into his muscular form. The door opened and the young representative came into the office. Sorry for the wait, said the smiling Izuku. To be fair, he could hardly contain his emotions, looking at the hero standing in front of him. All Might #1 hero, is in the same room as I am, the symbol of peace himself. And he is here to talk with me. Izuku, don't forget to breathe, he thought. The symbol of peace did not stop smiling. It's nothing, young man. So, what business does a commission have for me? All Might patted his bicep. Another conference? Or maybe a villain demanding a beating? Why, you guessed it right, Midoriya said with a small, almost sad smile and pointed to the sofa. Have a seat, please. Ahem. Tashinori coughed, looking at the operative sitting down at the table. It was hard for him to communicate on a professional level with someone so young. So, what does the commission want from me? Midoriya took out a stack of documents from his desk, but before opening it, he looked at the symbol of peace with a serious expression. Hey, All Might, before I give you the information from my administration, I want to ask a question. A personal question for me as a fan, and for me as an operative. The room is not bugged, by the way, so you are free to say anything. All Might's smile had subsided a little. Izuku continued, trying to keep a neutral expression on his face. You're getting weaker, aren't you? I don't quite understand what you're talking about. Young man, years of working with the media are showing their fruits. All Might didn't even flinch, hiding his surprise. His face showed a very convincing misunderstanding. I said I was a fan of yours. I've been following you for a long time, and as not the last person to commission, I know about your injury after battle with All for One 6 years ago. After this injury, you spent less and less time in heroic activity. Well, I made a logical conclusion from this. All Might's face did not change. I'm sorry, young Midoriya. I'm not going to comment on that. Izuku sighed and then nodded. I understand. I just want to make sure that you don't waste precious time that could have been spent saving people on me, he replied. Looking at the floor, he ran a hand through his black and green hair. Then, his gaze went straight into the eyes of Hero #1. However, if you need anything from me or the commission, then let me know. After all, I am the representative of HBSC. We will not let anything tarnish our symbol of peace. Here, take my number, please. After exchanging numbers, Midoriya opened a file from his desk. So, the reason for your visit. From the file, he took out several personal files and photos and gave them to All Might. That's photos of a small building in the forest, a laboratory, containers with people, the personal file of each rescued person, and, most importantly, the personal file of a white knight who had become some evil copy of himself. There were 2 photos in the file. One of them is a photo from obtaining a heroic license. The second is made by scientists during the study. In the first photo, the young white knight showed a cold confidence and readiness for action. His eyes looked a little tired, but they complemented his purple hair well. He somehow reminded Izuku of a much older version of Shinso, only with shorter hair. In the second photo, madness, scowl, and rage could be seen on the face, which was felt through the photo. His hair was long and disheveled, and his teeth were cracked from constant stress. From a study done by scientists from the Dagoba Research Institute, it was found that the White Knight has several quirks, and most agree that the quirks were added by force. Izuku said, I think you know what I'm getting at. In the course of Midoriya's explanation, All Might's face gradually lost its famous smile. All for one, he said solemnly. Midoriya nodded. There's no direct evidence, but I think there won't be any, at least in his case. All Might suddenly stood up and returned the papers to the representative of the commission. Thanks for the information, he said. I guess that's all you want to talk about. Midoriya chuckled slightly, diffusing the situation a bit. All Might reminded himself that he was standing in front of a 15-year-old boy and calmed down a little. I could talk to you for hours, All Might, but still, I don't really believe that I'm not wasting your time. So, yes, that's all the commission want to convey to you today. All Might did not turn away from the young operative. I'm sorry, young Midoriya. The information that my enemy has returned. This is not easy to accept. The smile did not fall from Izuku's face. Don't worry. I understand. Good. All Might sighed. Thank you for this conversation, young man. The news was really very important. said the symbol of peace, going out the door. "I am glad to help, All Might," the young representative of the commission replied to him. "If you need anything, you know where to look for me. I will help you in any way I can." The hero answered him with a thumb up. "Have a nice day, young Midoriya." The door closed, and Izuku's legs buckled from the stress of actually talking with All Might. "I just got All Might's contact on my phone. I think I can buy a house if I sell it." Midoriya looked out the window and saw Class 1A inside. He needed to write a message to Aizawa. Firstly, he needed to inform Hiro that he has no right to exclude Shinso on his own, but only after discussing the reasons to the director and Izuku. Secondly, Class 1A was absent from the opening ceremony. The class doesn't even know that Izuku exists. So, he needed to introduce himself again. Unless, of course, Aizawa has expelled them all by now. And this was not a joke. He has 154 expelled students on his account. Midoriya took his face in his hands. Shit! It's one thing to talk about yourself on the stage, and another to introduce yourself to the class in person. Okay, Izuku, introduction is an enemy. What tactic shall you use to win? There were two options. On one hand, he can approach them as distantly and formally as possible, to appear before them in the form of a seasoned HBSC operative, and try to compensate the impression that he was too young. This will help to create an image of a professional, despite his age. But this approach has its drawbacks. A detached, professional approach will not help to establish a common language with students. On the other hand, he may try to approach them as their peer, to show that they are on the same wavelength, at least when it comes to heroes and quirks. This way, he will be able to establish a connection with the students. But will someone come to him for serious advice then? And will he succeed? Any way you look at it, Midoriya is on a completely different wave from his peers. The only peer with whom he somehow communicated was Momo. But even so, he only talked to her about her quirk, Izuku's work, and heroes. How can he solve this problem? UA main facility, near 1A homeroom class, 9:30 a.m. I'm telling you, he wouldn't have expelled us. Momo said as she walked back to the classroom. Homeroom, according to Aizawa, was not over yet. It was obviously a trick. Aizawa looked at the phone, then at Shinso. The guy tried his best, but took the last place. Aizawa looked at the message again, and again at Shinso. TSA, the expulsion was a trick to make you try harder. Go back to class. But he looked so convincing. Mina said, "Stretching. I really thought he would kick out that boy with purple hair," said Toru. "I wouldn't be surprised. He didn't even show his quirk," Jiru added. She turned to Momo. "Still, it's amazing that you were able to take first place with such a quirk." Momo coughed into her first with a slight redness as they entered the classroom. Apparently, the main parameter was good performance on all tests, not an exceptional grade on one or two of them. Apparently so. Jiro muttered. Aizawa entered the classroom and closed the door, forcing the students to quickly take their seats. "Usually I don't waste time on such things, but it is an order from people from above," said Aizawa to the class. Signed in a surprisingly short time, Aizawa added to himself. "Because of the missed opening ceremony, you might not have found out about him." Aizawa turned to the door. "He will not teach lessons, so the authorities decided that I need to introduce him at least this way. Come in." The door opened, and inside went. Momo's eyes widened for a moment, but then she crossed her arms with a smirk. That's what he meant when he said they would meet soon. A young man came inside, looking no older than the students sitting at the desk. Momo heard two surprised gasps, one from Mina and another from the red-haired guy. "Deku!" Suddenly, one of the students screamed, getting up from his chair. Bakugo was his name? And what does Deku mean? Izuku didn't really manage to get inside the classroom, as this exclamation stopped him. And suddenly, Momo realized only now that she had never heard her friend from the commission laugh, because she would have remembered it. Loud, yet a little tired laugh. "We haven't spoken in 10 years, and this is the first thing you're saying to me, Bakugo?" Izuku noticed Momo's eyes widen a little. His eyes, of course, were far from Amiya's, but he began to notice the small details. Midoriya walked into the classroom and stood in front of the blackboard. "It looks like my plan to introduce myself to you seriously can be forgotten," he said, barely holding back a smile. He nodded imperceptibly towards Mina and Kirishima. "Bakugo, sit down. Don't embarrass yourself." Bakugo's hands clenched on the desk. Almost subconsciously, he tried. "I'm not going to listen to a quirkless dash." Tried. Just tried. Midoriya's eyes went cold. He and Katsuki were same height, but somehow Midoriya looked down on him. "Bakugo, sit down." The sudden change of intonation shocked Bakugo a little, and he sat down. That cold tone reminded him of his childhood. "Katsuki-kun, if you ever land a hand on my son again, you can forget about becoming a hero," said the cold voice on the other hand of phone. Bakugo sat down, staring at the operative intently. Damn it. Now the air was filled with tension. He even noticed Momo pressing her legs together after he talked down Bakugo. He heard that it was a sign of anxiety as well. Izuku was nervous enough himself, and a bit too much of this nervousness spilled because of the explosive teen. "Calm down. Don't scare them away. My name is Midoriya Izuku, by some coincidence. Some of you are already aware of me. I am the representative of Hero Commission, the organization that provides heroes with hero licenses in the country. That is, if we are speaking about the most important part for you." A few mutters ran through the classroom. "My task here is to support you, aspiring heroes." I understand what you are thinking right now. How someone this young can be a representative of such big organization as Hero Commission? Well, allow me to elaborate. Midoriya took off his suit jacket and rolled up the sleeves of his shirt, showing the many scars on his muscular arms. "As you can see, I have work experience. More than once, I fought side by side with professional heroes. With my help, you will be closer to obtaining the license and get to the work. Also, I will help you with your internships. However, all of this is optional. No, sorry, it is optional for most of you." "Hitoshi Shinso," said student perked up. "Come to my office 255 after the lessons." Izuku then glanced at the rest of the class. "To the rest of you, well, you know where to go if you want to find me. I can help you with everything Quirk related, since I am a certified Quirk specialist. Well, that's all. We can talk in private after the lessons, if you want. But not today. And as I said, it is optional. Questions?" One hand was raised immediately. "Tenya Ida, right? Go ahead." Ida stood up. "Yes, thank you. Could you please elaborate how exactly are you going to help us get the license?" Midoriya nodded. "Of course. First of all, I should tell you that the exam for the hero licenses checks all of your qualities. The way you behave, the way you fight, your ability to work together, how you save people. All of them. So, when you come to me, I will give you advices on what you should focus on. For example, this particular character Dash." Midoriya nodded at Bakugo. "Needs to control his anger. If he won't control himself and his emotions, he will fail at getting the license, no matter how strong his quirk is." That comment earned him another growl from Bakugo. However, Izuku also noted that the second recommended student looked at him with disdain. "Todoroki Shoto, if you remember correctly. And what's his problem?" wondered Izuku before continuing. That was the first part. The second part is my help with your internships. You might not know it, since you only got there, but the UA Sports Festival is your primary way to get attention from heroes and to get the invitations for the internships. But I will be blunt. Not all of you will receive equal attention. Some of you will get a considerable number of invitations. In that case, you can come to me, and I will help you choose the one that suits you the most. Taking your opinion into consideration, of course. Those who won't get any invitations, you can come to me, and I possibly can arrange you an internship from a certain pool of heroes. And the third part, your quirks. As I said earlier, I am a quirk specialist. I can arrange additional training and work with you myself until late evening. All of you are my job now. Are you satisfied, Ida-san?" The boy finally sat down with a nod. "Yes. Thank you for such thorough explanation. Anyone else?" asked Midoriya. Another hand. "Yes, Kirishima?" Izuku asked with a smile. Mr. Representative, sir, where's my promised autograph from Crimson Riot? Idru asked with a grin. Midoriya chuckled. Sorry, Kirishima, there was so much work lately that I barely had any time for any activity beside the main job. But I didn't forget about yours and Ishido's requests. Momo looked at Mina for a moment with narrowed eyes. Especially now, she felt insecure about her current friendship with the operative. Could she call this a friendship? Maybe, but she never talked to him about anything that was not her quirk. And now, apparently, another classmate of hers had some kind of connection with the young Midoriya. Izuku saved her life and steeled her resolve in becoming a hero, helped her with her quirk, but she barely could spend time with him because of his work. But now, she was his job, as he said. She was not going to let this chance slip. Anyone else? Midoriya looked around the class. Okay, no questions for now. Well, you are only at the start of your journey. Once again, you know where to find me. Shinso, I wait for you in my office after the lessons. Izuku looked at Momo with a nod and a slight smile. She smiled back. UA main facility cafeteria. 12:30 a.m. Well, neither of the options was chosen. After all, Izuku sighed at the table, looking at his food. He was neither too close to them because of Bakugu, and not too far thanks to Kirishima. Okay, this was good enough. Well, he also should thank Ida. Honestly, his question shouldn't have been asked in the first place. All of those details he should have given from the start. What could he say? Izuku didn't become an experienced enforcer within the first day. The same goes with being a representative. This day was not only the beginning of students' journey, but his as well. Or, at least, it was a new chapter of it. You sure? Izuku heard from the crowd a voice coming to him. Yes. He heard a familiar voice reply. Momo. Yeah, come on, said another familiar voice. Mina. Ugh. His table was approached by Yairo's and Momo and a few of her classmates, Jairu and Mina. Midoriya-san, do you mind if we sit here? It is quite crowded here. Izuku looked at them, and then quickly glanced around. There were other empty tables. Yes, of course, Yairo-san, he said. Thank you, she said while sitting down with her tray, and other girls followed suit. Izuku glanced at them. He was not going to make this awkward. He needed to talk to them. Thanks to Yairozu, he had a chance to get to know them. So, how is your first day going so far? He asked. To behold Dash, Momo began. It was so exciting. Mina interrupted her, not noticing her talking. All of our teachers are pro-heroes. When do they manage to work as the heroes, though? It must be so taxing. Izuku smiled at Mina, which Momo noticed. Again, yeah, our homeroom teacher is the prime example of taxing in every way. Kyoko replied, well, that's UA for you. Izuku replied, when it comes to hero courses, it feels like I am the only who is not a hero in the UA staff. By the way, Yairo-san, Momo looked at him with surprise. You wanted to say something? He said with a smile. He noticed, she thought with a smile. His expression was as contagious as always. She coughed in her fist. Yes, I wanted to say that the UA staff wasn't that surprising. For me, at least. Well, until you came in. When did you manage to become a representative? And why didn't you tell me? Wait, you two know each other as well? Mina asked. Well, my father asked for him to be my bodyguard for a while, Momo replied, not sure she could give out such information. Izuku didn't stop her, so it was fine. Jaira gave out quietly. A bodyguard. She looked at the scars on Izuku's hands. But even then it was hard to imagine. How young was he at that moment? And how did you get to know him? Momo asked back. Izuku, despite barely replying, actually felt as a part of a group his age for the first time. It was very different from his time in school, when he was evaded or ignored at all times. Though, he didn't know how to properly add something to the discussion. If it was not about his work, the brain shortcuts. He hoped that his words weren't needed at that moment. And here I thought, never mind. Mina suddenly exclaimed, well, I had to train hard to enter the exam, but because of it my grades fell. and I decided to get a few additional lessons. And lo and behold, the tutor was his mother. Yaoyorozu's eyes widened for a moment. So, you've been seeing each other quite often, then? She asked immediately. Nah, only once. Momo exhaled quietly. Ahem. All attention returned to the young representative. Can I answer your question now, Yaoyorozu-san? Why, yes, of course. Jiraiya noted that it was the first time Yaoyorozu stuttered. Sorry. Mina apologized for the interruption. Well, I was appointed as a representative the day we've been training your quirk for the last time dash. And you've been trained by him as well? Exclaimed Mina. Ashido-san! Exclaimed Momo back, annoyed at the constant interruptions. Ugh. Mina slumped in her seat. Sorry. And I didn't tell you because I wanted to surprise you. That's all, he finished. Momo shook her head with a sigh. Well, it was a success. And now you won't be able to run away from me. Was everything that came out of the young representative. Momo only now noticed what exactly she said. With a redness, she began waving her hands in a slight panic. I meant that now that you are working here, we can continue the training without interruptions and all teach that. W with all of us who want to, of course. Yes. Yeah. Jiraiya was barely holding her laugh. For the whole day, Yaoyorozu was giving an aura of confidence, only for it to break in front of Boy. Good-looking one, of course, and his scars only making him look better. But she decided to save Momo from the situation she got herself into. I am actually quite interested in the training part. She began, trying to get the attention herself. She was curling her jacks around her finger. Izuka smiled again. Thanks to Momo bringing other students, he now could find a common ground with other students. 2 out of 3 knew him, of course, but it was a nice start. So, for example, how do you think I should train my quirk? Jiraiya asked, looking away. Well, Midoriya began taking out his notes. Your quirk allows you to translate the sound of your heartbeat, if I remember correctly. Jiraiya nodded. Well, we will set aside the usage of support devices. It should be obvious as it is. But other than that, what can you do with your jacks? Kyoka finally faced him. She didn't expect him to actually start thinking about it. I can extend them to the floor and then some. And how durable are they? She looked away for a second. Quiet, durable. Midoriya shook his head. That's not accurate enough. Give me an example. Kyoka looked away again, thinking of a better example. Well, the robots from the practical exam batted them away a few times, but it didn't hurt, and the jacks were fine. Midoriya hummed in understanding, taking notes. And how long can you use your quirk? What happens if you overuse it?